Today's episode of the Resleevables is brought to you by StarCityGames.com, where from Tuesday, June 1st at 11 a.m. East Coast time until Monday, June 7th at 10:59 a.m. East Coast time, it's time for you to protect what you collect. My favorite ad read of all these ad reads we do before the podcast begins, because it's so easy to say and for you to remember. And now you know that select Magic the Gathering supplies are 25% off this week over at StarCityGames.com/sale, SALE. Go over there, check it out, find some sleeves, deck boxes, play mats, binders, and a whole bunch more. Save 25% over at checkout. Don't even need a promo code. Easy does it. Weekly sale for those days, the 1st until the 7th. Again, StarCityGames.com/sale, SALE. Bookmark that page, because when we come back next week for the Saviors of Kamigawa Resleevables, there's going to be a new sale up that I'm going to have to tell you about. So why wait for me when you can just bookmark the page and check it out yourself on Monday at 11 a.m. East Coast time every single week. StarCityGames.com/sale is the website. And for this week, 25% off select supplies. Protect what you collect. Today's episode of the Resleevables is also brought to you by Coalesce Apparel and Design, the #1 store for Magic the Gathering inspired apparel. If you're on the hunt for very awesome Magic-inspired shirts, hoodies, and stickers, be sure to head over to coalesceapparel.shop, browse the wares, and if you find something you like, use gift code SCG to get 10% off at checkout. Again, that's gift code SCG to get 10% off at checkout. Coalesce Apparel and Design, no one made what they wanted, so they made it themselves.
What's up, everyone? Justin Parnell here.
Along with Ryan Overturf, and we want to tell you about the single best podcast on the SCG network.
Well, obviously, Ryan, you're talking about the 540.
Indeed I am, and that is the best podcast because we talk about the best format in the history of Magic.
Cube Draft?
Cube Draft.
Every week we go over all things Cube.
We're talking about in-depth reviews of brand new cards.
The best ways to draft and think about Arena and Magic Online Cube formats,
as well as ways to play with your friends,
and ways to play with your enemies.
Also some ways to make your friends into your enemies.
And cardboard takes of a variety of temperatures.
So if you're a fan of structured nonsense,
or if you hate it,
either way, all the same, check out the 540 every week wherever you find your podcasts, and right here on StarCityGames.com.
Coming up next, a little Bushido, all right, a little Soulshift, okay. Little Arcane and splicing onto it. Okay, well, stuff we know. Ninjutsu, well, that's a new one. I think we all like that one. Pro Tour Atlanta 2005. Oh yeah, that was a fun one. Oh, and some legendary artifact equipment called Umezawa Jitte. Yeah, that whole thing. Betrayers of Kamigawa time here on the Resleevables. Let's go. All right, everybody, welcome to another lovely episode of The Resleevables, hosted by StarCityGames.com. I'm your host, Cedric Phillips, at Cedric A. Phillips on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and he is the co-host of the podcast. He is Patrick Sullivan at Basic Mountain on Twitter, coming back from a little trip away, sleeping in the woods.
Yeah, I went camping. No good came of that. Don't really have any stories. It's all blur now. Just waking up in the middle of the night, being cold, it raining. Went to the pool in Glenwood Springs. That part was nice, I guess. But, still recovering from my vacation. People say that, like, they go to like Hawaii for a week, and then they get on a plane and they come on back. And maybe they're a little jet lagged or tired or hungover, whatever. And they're like, I need a day to recover from my vacation. I need several days to recover from my vacation. And it's not because I'm hungover or jet lagged, but because it was excruciating. But enough about me. How was your Memorial Day weekend?
Well, yesterday, there's a place here in Seattle called Richmond Beach. And at Richmond Beach, there's a set of steps there that are 188 steps from the bottom to the top. And my partner Joy and Joy actually introduced me to running those steps because she's been running those steps for a large majority of her life. It's got a great view. And so I now run them with her as of last year during the pandemic is when I first started. It's hell. It's awful. And by the way, it's 100. We do the steps 10 times. So it's 180 steps 10 times. Yes.
Intense.
That's yes. Yeah, so that's 1,880 steps. Yeah, it's tough. It is tough. But it is she put it very eloquently yesterday, actually. She said, no matter how you go about doing the steps, whether it's you run them the whole time, you walk them, you split the run, walk, jog, whatever, you've gotten through all 1,880 of them. It's not like weightlifting where like you're curling and then like, you're like leaning with the curls and like kind of cheating with the curls or anything like that, or like any other exercise that you might be doing with weightlifting where like you're doing it wrong, but you're just trying to get it done. No, with the steps, you've gotten it done one way or another, assuming you continue through the whole thing. So the good thing to note is that it's gotten better over time. You do see, and you see this a lot with running, an improvement pretty quickly, assuming that you're consistently doing it as far as endurance is concerned. So it's now gotten to the point right now where it's less about me being winded and more about like, can my quads and my brain endure the pain that are in my legs while I'm doing it? And it's gotten better over time.
You can totally cheat the steps.
How?
Just roll down.
Well, on the way down, that doesn't even sound, what? That sounds horrible.
Just roll down. You just roll down the hill. But I know what you're saying. You can definitely cheat weightlifting exercises, bad form, or, whatever, using other muscle groups in certain spots in a way that you can't really with the cardio stuff. So when it's done, it's done. That's cool, I guess.
You just got to get through it. It takes a little under an hour now, which is nice. And I'd like to get it down to about 40 minutes if I can. I think that'd be super rad. So, it's we go twice a week, and it's just a challenge every time. And yesterday was extremely challenging because some days when you're at the gym or some days when you're working out, you just got low energy day. You don't really feel like doing it, but you're like, I'm going to get through it. Yesterday was the lowest energy day for me. I had nothing. But I'm like, I'm just going to get through this. So it's a lot more walking than I wanted it to be. And less running than I wanted it to be. But, I just got to get through it. So some days are high energy, some days are low energy. But ultimately got through it. Next time at the steps is a Friday evening. But more importantly, camping. I don't really need any stories from you. This is more of a, why do people choose to sleep on the ground when they could not sleep on the ground outside? I've never understood it. I don't get the fascination with it of like, hey, we're humans. We're at the top of the food chain. We have houses and apartments and beds and all this other stuff. You know what I want to do for the weekend? Not use any of those. Sleep outside in a tent where it's damp and cold and the ground is hard.
I will say this in camping's defense. It's a really great vacation to take with young kids because they're very into the novelty, sleeping somewhere different, and they can basically just run around all day long and have a great time. So that part is good. I would never choose to do this of my own volition. The one time that I went camping prior to moving to Colorado was for Dave Humphreys' wedding. Who's like a senior person over at WotC now, back when we were over at Upper Deck. And he and his wife got married. They want to do like an outdoor camping wedding somewhere in Northern California. It was really beautiful. We were just like not prepared. I had not done it before. I didn't know what supplies you needed. Just like went in, was miserable, slept on rocks, the usual. Now our preparation's a little bit better, a little bit more fluency with various things. Great for the kids, but it's terrible for me. I have no other way to describe it. This is terrible.
Like I'm going for a hike on Monday this coming week, right? I'm going to cover the Strixhaven Championship, and then and I'm doing that all weekend long, so I don't have like a day off this weekend. So Monday I'm taking the day off of work. And I'm gonna go for a hike.
Sorry, what are you doing over the weekend?
Covering the Strixhaven Championship.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that cool?
That's cool. That's cool to get invited to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, kid. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail. Keep going.
No problem, brother. No problem. And so on Monday, I'm taking the day off of work. I'm going to get up at 8 a.m. I'm going to take a drive 30 minutes. I'm going to go do this hike that takes like 5 or 6 hours. And so hiking, as I've learned, I'm fine with hiking. I'm outside. I've got headphones on, listening to podcast or music or something. Just walking around, enjoying the beautiful scenery that Seattle has provided me. Cool. I don't do it a ton. My partner has done a lot of hiking around the country. She's gone to like basically all the spots that you could hike, like Glacier, Yellowstone, Tetons, like all this stuff, right? And she's been around all the places in Seattle. She wants to hike with me. It sounds fun. I wouldn't go on my own. Great, I'm going to do it. But I don't want to stay there at night. You know, it's like I'll wake up early and I'll go, and it will be a multiple hour activity. It's going to take up the majority of my day. But I'm going to come home and I'm going to shower in the apartment that I pay for and sleep in the bed that I've purchased, instead of sleeping on the ground like a bear. Like, I just don't, I've never been able to rationalize it. Maybe you're right that when you have kids, you're like, you know what, let's go camping. It's a great kids activity. I would never do this on my own. And even now as an adult, it's like, could we just go home? Like, if it's 10 p.m., like we could make it back to the car. We could get there and then we could drive home. I'll carry all the, I'll piggyback you back to the car. I don't care. I'm not sleeping on the ground.
There's also a level of intentionality to it for me at this point that makes it even worse, which is maybe 10 or 15 years ago when money was a little bit tighter for me, doing an activity with friends that was like pretty low cost. It's not expensive to camp. Once you have the gear, you own it. And then all the other expenses are pretty trivial. But now it's like, I can just get a hotel room. Like, I can just do kind of whatever in that space. So I really have to mean it. Like, I'm doing this in lieu of other options that also come at a low opportunity cost. And I find it to be miserable. But it's good for the kids, you know, so that's something at least. They had a great time. That part was really fun. They had a really great time. And that's worth a lot as a parent. But it is not an infinitely valuable good. It's not worth everything. So I am still in recovery.
Things I miss from not traveling for at least a year. Sleeping in a hotel room bed. There are people out there that are like, I can't sleep in a hotel room bed. They're uncomfortable. I'm not one of those people. I actually love hotel room beds for the most part. I know we've had some experiences of pull-out couch bed, which are never good. The bar squarely in the back. But ignoring that, you know, I love a good hotel room bed, more than like most I've gathered. I can't say that I really miss the Ubers and some other aspects of being on the road, the overpriced food in the airport, stuff like that. But, you know, sleeping on the plane was not so bad. I've gotten pretty good and accustomed to it, and just a good hotel room bed, especially after like doing day one of a show. And it's just like, oh, look, it's just all made up again. That's nice. Hop right on in there. I kind of miss that. Spilling Oreos all over it, like I'm once to do. I kind of miss that life a little bit.
There's a couple elements that I miss. Most of them involve the plane. There's three things. One is getting absolutely wasted on an airplane. Love that. Either on the airplane or before boarding. Love that. It's an opportunity. That's one. Number two, opportunity to get caught up on books, podcasts, whatever. You're just sort of in your own little, you know, you got your own little space. It's no one can really bother you or interrupt you. So that's good. The third, which I've sort of lost over the years, was back when we were doing a bunch of shows. I got to Diamond Medallion on Delta, which is like 125,000 miles flown a year or whatever. So I was flying out of LAX. I was regularly upgraded to first class. And LAX is like a big Delta hub, you know? So I'm in first class. I'm like wearing a tracksuit or just like a white t-shirt with holes in it. You know how I dress when I fly.
Yes. I'll use the term casual.
Somewhere between casual and not going to be allowed to board is how I was dressed. So if you fly out of Los Angeles and you're in first class and you're dressed like that, a lot of people assume that you're famous. So there's a lot of people that initiated conversations with me, being like, oh, Patrick must be this person who they must be famous from something, right? And then, you know, I'd reek of liquor and maybe other stuff too. So they're like, oh, this person definitely has to be famous. They're like a musician, like a DJ or something, right? So I got a lot of conversations with people that were like sort of trying to probe for information in a way that was polite, but they were definitely like curious because I think the assumption was I was someone of note. It's not true. Just a fuck up on the plane.
Just going to cover the next Snapcaster and the lightning bolt. in a city near you.
Yeah. Does someone
That's all.
this famous fly to Columbus? I don't think so. I'm here doing something else.
You're just connecting in Columbus, right? Nah, it's the final stop.
Yeah. Yeah,
This is it.
The most charitable thing that I could be doing is like I'm a bag person for like illicit donations to an Ohio State recruit. That's like the most legitimate famous thing I could be doing. In reality, I'm just covering the Magic tournament.
See you at the convention center.
See you there.
See you there.
See you there.
Boy, do I miss it. Boy, do I miss it.
See you at the Drury.
That's right. Tell you what, free breakfast downstairs. Let's talk about it.
Popcorn machine, the whole nine.
Yes, yeah, they do have the popcorn machine.
That's right.
Oh, the Drury. I think I don't know. I remember the Red Roof too.
Yeah.
We've stayed in the full swath of hotels in Columbus. Stayed in the Hyatt, the Drury, the Red Roof. I think the Crown at least once. That's all on Nationwide. That's all on the same street.
There's no way we ever stayed at the Crown.
I think we have approximately one time. We have.
That place is like $130 a night. There's no way they would have put us up.
The Hyatt's way more expensive than that. The Hyatt's way more expensive. And we've been there once. We've been there one time. So it's possible. It's definitely possible. I guess we could talk about Betrayers of Kamigawa. See, what we're doing right now is we're killing a little bit of time because, there's only so many different ways you can talk about Umezawa Jitte, right?
It's a lot to talk about in that set. There's a lot of cool stuff.
There's more than meets the eye. By the way, for those of you who listened to the Champions of Kamigawa episode of the Resleevables, first of all, thank you. Second of all, apologies for not getting the Upper Deck stories out of the way. We had teased 2 episodes ago that we were going to do the LeBron James Upper Deck story, and that I had mentioned it during the Champions episode, and then didn't follow through on making you tell the story. So right now, the first Upper Deck story this week is your LeBron James story that people have been clamoring for 2 weeks. Let it rip.
All right, so this happened. This was like summer 2008. It was right after LeBron and Team USA had won the Olympics for basketball. And Upper Deck ran a promotion where you could send in booster packs, like, your rappers or whatever. And, X people of a certain age, like 17 or younger, got drawn to get flown out to Upper Deck, flown out to Carlsbad, and to shoot hoops with LeBron James on the Upper Deck facility. So this happens, and it's like, we're going to take a half day because like LeBron's coming. It's a huge deal. And even though this place was just a sinkhole of morale, they realized that making people just work during the afternoon while LeBron James was out playing basketball with some kids would perhaps be a bridge too far. So LeBron shows up. He and his people, security or whatever, are taking a tour of a building. I'm walking through the hallway with my head down, like reading a sheet of paper, and just collide with one of his security people. So I like look up, and it's like LeBron's 18 inches away from me. I hit some security person in it, and it's like you have no sense of how huge these people are until you see them in relation to yourself or other normal people. So I got kind of an early introduction there. So then he goes outside. There's like bleachers set up in the parking lot or whatever where we're going to do this thing. So there's a quick Q&A session where the employees get to ask LeBron a few questions. I get called on. And this was right after the Cavs acquired Mo Williams. So I said, congratulations on the gold medal or whatever. My question is, like, how excited are you about the Mo Williams acquisition? And LeBron's answer, paraphrasing, he's very politically savvy, but paraphrasing was, it will be nice to have someone on the team who can score when I'm not in the game.
Which was 100% true.
This question was a mistake. The real question that I should have asked was, we had a rec league game that night and our starting small forward was hurt. And I should have asked him if he would just hang around and play, because that would have been funny. And in the like 0.01% chance, he's like, yeah, sure, I'll play for a half. Would have been insane.
You got like 5 minutes, LeBron, just come on down real quick and put these people in a trash can, or what's going on?
We got a hole at the 3 right now. Our starting small forward, Ken Ho, he turned his ankle. So we got his roster slot ready to go if you would be willing to play. no tryout needed. We'll take your word on it. So I messed up that question, but fine. It was still cool. He answered it. Great. So he then goes out, shoots hoops with the kids for a while. It's cool. It's laid back. They're having a good time. And so that ends. And then the owner, Richard McWilliam, who, he's the sort of the hub around sort of all these unethical stories, comes out of the hallway or in the inside of the building, wherever he was sitting, and goes, thank you so much, everyone. Big round of applause for LeBron James. And everyone's like standing and clapping. And Richard comes walking up to LeBron. And Richard has his hand out and clasped, like he's going for like a bro handshake, like a hug.
Oh no. Oh boy.
And LeBron has his hand out straight, like
to shake his hand.
To shake his hand. And they stare at each other for half a second, with Richard his hand clasped and LeBron with his hand straight. And then Richard straightens out his hand and shakes his hand.
Yeah.
And it's the greatest. It's like one of the greatest moments I've ever seen in my entire life. I wish I had it recorded somewhere, but that like just split second of like, who's going to give here? And of course it was Richard, LeBron, the master.
Oh, we know who's going to give.
Yeah.
It's not even a question who's going to give.
So that's my LeBron James story. It was cool. I got to see a lot of cool stuff and talk to him briefly. It's awesome. Second story, less cool. No fault of the athlete. It's my Kobe Bryant story, which is the housing market collapses. This is kind of around the same time. Everyone so basically it's like there's a ton of layoffs. Everyone has to take a 10% just across the board salary reduction. And everyone's like retirement match, like 401k match, that's over, so it's a huge slashing. And this is also a time where a lot of people, it's like their late 20s, their early 30s, they've just bought their first home that's just lost, 40% of its value overnight, which is rough. So we're in the warehouse and we're just getting this pep talk from, I think, Richard's personal assistant or something. And she's like, Richard's had to cut back too. As if like this millionaire who owns the company and us are in like a similar position. So
he's making a sacrifice.
So this doesn't go over very well. And I think even Richard was aware that this speech sort of landed flat. So time to call in the reserves, call in the troops. Get dragged out. So just Kobe Bryant standing on the podium. He's talking about, his work ethic, his will to win and compete, and talking about waking up at 4:00 in the morning to train. Thinking that we would be inspired by this instead of incredibly pissed off because it's insulting for like 10,000 different reasons. It's not hard to intuit. The kicker to all of this was that there's a podium that was kind of at the top of the steps where there was an awning, and then all the employees were at the bottom of the steps where there was no awning, and it was raining out. So we're just sitting there, pay slashed, getting a lecture from Kobe Bryant about how if we just woke up at 4:00 in the morning, we would, I don't know, succeed more or whatever. We didn't get an opportunity for questions and answers with Kobe. I think they thought that would be a bad. I think they thought that would be a bad idea. So yeah, those are my two upper deck encounters with those two athletes. And this is not Kobe's fault. He was called in. He got his money for driving down. Whatever. Not his fault, but it was not inspiring. I'll say that.
Well, so I've seen LeBron play like in person, right? Been to a couple Cavs games when he was on our team, thankfully. First run, not second run, unfortunately. And he's huge.
Huge.
I don't think you can like via conversation contextually put into words how massive of a human being he is. Not the height so much, because obviously he's tall, but it's just like he is a massive, like a massive, like his presence in a room or like when he's walking by or something, it's just like, who the fuck is that? Like, you ever walk by someone and you're just like, I don't know who that is, but they're important or something. Like, I feel like that when I like walk by like a football player or something who I don't like, I'm not like 100% they play football, but like, like 90% they're like an O lineman or something like that. And I'm just like, I don't know who that guy is, but like that guy matters. LeBron is like that, like multiplied times 10. You just look at him and you're just like, you're enormous and there's a presence about you that like, I don't think you're a dick. It's just like, you're important.
There's no way that you're not famous. It's impossible.
Yeah.
You had to at least be an actor or something. There's just no way you're just a regular person who happens to work out a lot. I don't believe it. Yeah, you have no sense of the scale of these people, in these contexts. I was at the Stanley Market in Denver and some Broncos O lineman was there. And it's like, he's 6'6", 330 and a ton of muscle. You have no idea how huge that is until you like stand next to it in line at getting bread or whatever. It's very, very different. And LeBron, just athletes of that level, they move differently. It's like they collide. So you're seeing this person who's like 6'8", 265, all muscle, and also just walks around like they're a professional dancer or something. It's really wild.
Indeed it is. Indeed, it very much is. Betrayers of Kamigawa, folks. Let's dive in. Only like 25 minutes in the podcast before we get to the facts of the set, which is this is Magic's 34th Magic expansion, released on February 4th, 2005. Thinking. College. Spring semester. Still a screaming disaster. I think my grades fall semester weren't terrible. I haven't gone all the way downhill yet, but I'm still very much skipping class, doing as many drafts IRL as possible with Michael Day, Matt Lackey, Jake Foster, and the Purdue crew, going to PTQs. Oh, and this, okay. This is the time in which we've won a team PTQ. So let's dive into this real quick. It's Team PTQ season, folks. And this is, I believe at this time, the Team PTQ that I won during this time was Mirrodin. It was Champions, Betrayers. And, okay, this is a fun story because this matters for GP Atlanta and also me being banned. So here we go. It all works itself into each other. Trust me, it does. So, as you know from the last episode, Champions of Kamigawa Resleevables, I was banned from Magic in July of 2005. Like late June, early July. I find out at Origins that year, okay? However, the event that led to that banning took place in like November, Triple Champions of Kamigawa PTQ in Indianapolis, top 8, with the Rochester draft nonsense. So, obviously, there's a huge gap between that PTQ in November/December and then the event that I get banned for and the time I get banned in July. And what makes the banning part of the fun of this is that I qualified and played in a PT while I was still, quote, under investigation, unquote. Okay? So, PTQ. And I'm very curious about your experience in Team PTQs, but here is mine. We played a PTQ, me, Michael Day, Matt Lackey. We played a Team PTQ in Indy. You know how many teams were at this PTQ?
15.
9.
This is Indy too, right?
Indy.
In Indy.
9 teams at the Team PTQ, okay? So we win the PTQ. I don't remember if you even had to play the finals, but we won the PTQ, right? So me, Lackey, and Day qualify. But there's a little something going on here that I'm not too proud of, but I'm happy to say out loud because I'm 35 at this point and I'm still really good friends with Matt Lackey and everything. So at this time, me and Michael Day, we thought we were both awesome. And Matt Lackey was just kind of like the third person that we needed someone to team with. And then we won and we didn't expect to win. So we were like, we got to play with Lackey at the Team PT. Not sure how we feel about this. Okay. And also, Matt is afraid to fly. And the PT's in Atlanta and we're in Indy. Now, it doesn't mean you can't drive. But, we're looking at the variables here and we're just like, we probably got to try to get a new third. So we tell Matt this. He's not thrilled about it, but like kind of takes it in stride. So then we start going to other PTQs. Okay. So it's like there's a PTQ with like me, Michael Dane, and Irvin the Jazz Hour Tormos, and other PTQs that we play in. And then we do a Chicago PTQ with me, M Day, and Robert Cadlick, aka Boy, B-O-Y, who was really good friends. An all-time nickname by Gabe Walls. And so we go to a Chicago PTQ, okay? And we're playing this PTQ, and we're just crushing it, okay? We're absolutely crushing it. Our decks are all busted, and we're just kind of doing our thing. So we make it through to the top 4, okay? And we're playing against... Actually, hold on. Let me rewind a little bit more of this story. During this story, Boy, it's insane to call him Boy. Boy is XO in the Swiss, okay? He's a red-white like Spirits deck with Devouring Rage and some other stuff. His deck is fine, but he's crushing it, right? And I'm just like, man, this kid's actually pretty good. This is pretty nice, you know? I'm doing pretty good with a really good blue-red deck that has like Kumano and Teller of Tales, like all these busted cards, right? And then M-Days, I would say that Michael Day is not at his best on this particular day with the black-green Spirits Devouring Greed deck, okay? So in the last round of the Swiss, we have an option. We can play it out, and if we win, we're going to make the top 4, and if we lose, we're not. Or we could draw and hope things break our way. Now, Patrick, you know me.
Play it out.
What would I do in this situation?
Control your destiny.
Not 19-year-old Cedric.
Really?
I'll explain. I was so frustrated with how bad Michael Day was playing that day that I was just like, we can't play. You're playing so bad, we can't do it. And also, the team we were playing against was Adrian Sullivan and 2 of his teammates. I can't think of their name right now, which I feel bad about, especially if they listen to this podcast, because I like them both.
Can I guess?
Right, but yeah, go ahead.
Brian Kowal?
I'm thinking yes, and I know the other one, his name is just escaping me, and I'm not going to be able to Google his name, or I'm not going to be able to Facebook his name in a meaningful way. Go ahead and guess the other one.
Matt Severa.
Definitely not Severa.
Okay.
I'd remember Severa because he's a jerk to me all the time.
Trying to think of any sort of like Madison Ringer that isn't, KOTOR staple.
I'm digging right now through Kowal's. It's Jim Hustad.
Yes.
I don't know if you know who that is. It sounds like you do.
Yes.
He's good.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. and he's a really cool dude. Like a Madison guy. Love him. Right. So it's like Sullivan, Hustad, and maybe Kowal, maybe not. Right. And so we're playing. I know they have like a really good deck. Like one of the decks has multiple Nabi blasts, like all this other stuff. Right. And so like we're initially playing a little bit, and like if they draw, they're in. So it doesn't matter to them. Right. And like we're playing, and I'm just like, I don't think we're gonna win. I don't think we're gonna win. And they're just like, if we draw, we risk ourselves of just getting 5th place. Like it's almost a lock when we get 5th place. And it's like, we need 3 events to break our way. And I'm like, no, we draw. I like, you're going to lose. I can't take it. Right. I'm at my most asshole right now. Right. But also M-Day was just playing pretty bad that day for what like his ceiling is. And so like, I'm losing it. Right. Like I'm losing it. Right. Like I'm at my absolute worst and most critical on this day. And I'm just like, we are drawing. And I like put my fist down. I grab the slip, right? 111, ID on it. And I'm just like, the conversation is over. Okay. So then we end up getting 4th on breakers because like every result broke our way. Right.
Yep.
And I'm just like, I told you. And everyone's like, dude, like so much had to go right. Like Gadiel's team had to lose and like a bunch of other stuff had to go right. So then we get paired against Sullivan's team in the top 4, same decks, beat them, and then get paired against Nick Little, Mike Crum, and someone else. I think their third was Eddie Anderson. Do you know Eddie Anderson? Fast Eddie?
Fast Eddie?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Fastest player I've ever seen, makes no mistakes. And I think and they just conceded to us. Okay. So now I'm qualified with a second team, me, Boy, and Michael Day. This matters for the events section of the tournament, which I will get to when we get to Pro Tour Atlanta. However, and also I've got some funny stories about you from that PT. However, Patrick, if you will, what was going on during your life at that time?
Upper deck, sort of half-heartedly still playing in PTQs. I flew to at least one Grand Prix during this time. But really a weird spot with Magic. Like I was playing a lot, but it was mostly out of habit rather than having any, real professional aspirations at that point. Just sort of hanging around. It was my social circle. I had sort of enough residual pro points and incentives to sort of still like half-heartedly try, but I was just going through the motions more or less.
Okay, so not a ton.
I mean, I was working and doing stuff, but Magic-wise, the block constructed format wasn't super appealing to me, and I didn't have any super major aspirations of trying to get back on the Pro Tour in sort of a recurring way. And, I was there, still part of my life, but just not a big part of it as it once was.
Okay. More facts about Betrayers of Kamigawa before we get into the events. 165 cards, 55 commons, 55 uncommons, 55 rares. Mythic rares didn't exist. No lands in the set. Set was codenamed Wind of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Cool. Events with Betrayers of Kamigawa. Like literally no other facts about the set. That's all you get. Okay. Events with Betrayers of Kamigawa is the newest set. Pro Tour Atlanta. Team sealed. March 11th through the 13th. 119 teams. The winner. Nova, Gab Sang, David Rude, Gab Nassif. Okay? Second place, team name We Add, great team name. Don Smith, Andrew Pacifico, Adam Baby Chambers, Baby Chamby. Third place, one spin, Tamoharu Saito, Kenji Samura, and Tamoharu Kaji. And then fourth place, I'm just going to be honest with the audience because I care about pronouncing people's names correctly. The team name is in French. The players are French, and I'm definitely going to get their names wrong. So I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the team name. And then the players, I'm also not going to attempt to pronounce out of respect to those players. But for Benjamin, Nicholas, and Camille, who are probably not listening to this podcast and probably don't play Magic anymore, congratulations on the accomplishment. But out of respect to you and your team name, I'm not going to butcher this and embarrass myself. Okay. We also have a list here of not winners. My team. Oreo, which, curious how we came up with that name. Probably has something to do with, well, not going to get into that.
Oh, I have a guess. Do you mind if I guess?
Yeah, would you like to? Sure.
All right, my guess is that it's because your team has both white and black players on it.
Oh, is that what you think?
Did I get it? Ding, 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 ding.
We finished in did you hear how many teams there were?
119.
We finished 117th. And a team by the name of G Walls Soaking Wet, Patrick Sullivan, Eugene Harvey, and Adam Horvath finished at 103rd place. So, would you like me to tell the story about that PT that I have, or do you want me to tell the story about you that I have involving that PT?
I have no recollection of either event, so you go first.
Okay, so as I told you, I double qualified. We refused to play with Lackey. We're going to play with Boy. Okay. And Boy is from Kokomo, Indiana, about an hour from Indy, about 90 minutes from West Lafayette, which is where I was going to school. And Gabe Walls also grew up in Kokomo, Indiana. That's how they're friends. Now, at this point, Gabe is living in like actual Indianapolis with a magic house of Jerry Thompson, Mike Crum, Kyle something, not, Kyle, vintage guy, was friends with Gabe. You definitely know him. I can't think of his last name.
Oh, Montgomery.
Guy. Yeah, Kyle Montgomery. Nick Little, Nate Price. Awesome house. I used to spend every weekend there. Okay. I would never stay home during college. Jerry would actually drive up to Purdue about like 90 minutes, come and grab me, drive back down. We'd spend all weekend either going to a PTQ or playing Magic Online and watching Shaun of the Dead and eating ham and cheeses from Arby's. Everything is literally the best time in my life. Okay. So, Boy's my teammate alongside Michael Day. However, before the PT starts, about 2 days before, Boy's parents are like, you can't go to the PT because he's never left the state before. And they're like, you can't go to Atlanta. And he's like, well, I'm qualified. My friends are expecting me to go. And they're just like, you can't go. And Boy's parents are like super strict. So now me and Michael Day are in full scramble mode because we have also at this point been like, well, we're not playing with Lackey, and have like offended him to the degree where he's like, well, I'm not making up for this problem that you guys have. Right. So I'm in full panic mode now. I'm talking to Gabe and I'm like, Gabe, you got to talk to his parents and let him go. And he's like, that has nothing to do with me. I'm like, Gabe, I need you here. Come on, man. And he's like, I cannot do anything. They're not going to let him go. He's not going to go. Right. So now I'm on the horn with Boy, and me and Michael Day are basically begging him to leave his house in the middle of the night. And he acquiesces. So Michael Day, instead of flying, to this PT. Decided in order to make this work, he's going to drive to this PT. So he drives to Kokomo in the middle of the night. Midnight, 1 a.m., grabs boy packs a bag, leaves his house. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They drive 8 hours to Atlanta, get there right before the tournament starts. Let's do it. We 0-2, quicker than a hiccup. And the boy's parents call, and they're just like, where are you? And he's like, Atlanta? And they're like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm in Atlanta. I really wanted to play in that pro tour that I qualified for. And they're like, if you're not home by the end of the night, it's going to be horrible for you.
How old was he at this point?
I think he's 1 year younger than me. So he was either 17 or 18.
Okay.
And I was 19. And so he's like in full panic mode of just like, what do I do? All this other stuff. And like, we're 0-2. So like, we're basically dead anyway. He just buys a one-way flight home and just flies right on home. Right?
Yeah.
And he gets grounded for inf due to this. And this whole thing, I tell you, every aspect of qualifying for this pro tour and then playing in this pro tour and everything was just a disaster. Because, like, you know, now there's nothing else for us to do. Like, he's got to leave. Our tournament's over. I don't even know what else. Like, I don't remember any other aspect of this tournament. I just remember that, like, we're talking, like, full, like, movie style. Just like, hey, get in the car. Just get in the car. We got to go play this PT. Just get in the car. Gets in the car. Michael Day's driving, like, 90 to Atlanta to make it in time for this PT. Right? And then we just get there and it's like, all right, he's here. We're here. We're going to make this worth it. 0-2. None of us deal like a point of damage. Just all of it goes horrible. And then also just isolated one of our really good friends because we're like, you're not good enough to to play for us in the team PT that you qualified for. I mean, look, there's a subset of people in the Magic community now that think I am a tremendous asshole, and that's fine. It doesn't even really bother me at all. But me, when I was in between the age of 18 to 21, the only thing I cared about was winning matches of Magic and proving to myself and everyone else how good I was, and I would do anything to do that. And this is an example of that, because I was an asshole.
Well, I have sort of a similar story in that space. So this was the Team Pro Tour that I played with Adam Horvath and Eugene Harvey.
Is it this one?
Yeah. We had talked for a long time about, you know, it's like we started playing Magic together in like middle school. We all went to the same high school. Like, how cool would it be to play in the Pro Tour together? So we're talking about this for a long time, but there's some political cost to it, right? Like, you know, Adam and I have relationships with OSIP and Craig Krempels. And so how do we sort of navigate these waters? Because it's like tricky, right? People's specific pro point thresholds matter. People may want to team with some other people and maybe not with others. So how do you go about sort of respectfully bringing up the conversation of, hey, we would really like to team together. And obviously we're interested in everyone who's affected by this landing in a good position, but we really want to team together and it's a priority for us. How did you go about doing that? What we decided was just telling the table at dinner, the three of us are playing together, the end. So we're at dinner with, like, I'm trying to think who it was. I think it was like John Sonny, Craig Krempels, my then wife, Gerard Fabiano, Craig Krempels, whatever. Just like a lot of people who are impacted by this, who were expecting that they would team with at least one of us or something, right? So now everyone's like, okay, I guess we'll just chop up the other teams amongst ourselves, you know? And, you know, OSIP, I don't remember who OSIP teamed with. Maybe Gerard, I think maybe Gerard and Billy P, or Gerard and Antonino DeRosa, I think ended up being his team. And Kate, John, Sonny, and Krempels played together for that Pro Tour. And then, so we were, you know, it was awkward, right? But we got to play together at least, very briefly, because we did horribly. But we did have our opportunity to play together, I guess, briefly.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I think that one thing that is different about, well, there are a lot of things that are different about Magic now than they were, you know, 20 years ago, or how this was almost 20 years ago. The conversation around teammates and how, like, hostile it could be and how hurtful it could end up being. Because, like, if you were, like, I think now it's a lot more, I would like to believe that now it's a lot more copacetic. But I think, like, you know, back when we were playing, it was just kind of like, yeah, like I'm not teaming with you. And it's like, wow, it's just like, I just don't think you're very good. And it's like, ugh. And like, there was really no, I think like people are better communicating now than they were, like way back when, or maybe it's because I was young and stuff. And it's just like, I'm just like, I don't want to play with Matt, like, I don't want to play with you. Like, I just don't think you're very good. I don't think it gives me the best chance to win. And in a way, it kind of feels like, when like a professional athlete, which obviously I'm not, it's just kind of like, yeah, I just can't win with these guys. Like James Harden this year was just like, nah, we ain't winning shit with this team. Like Houston. He's like, I'm out. And everyone's like, what a just huge dick. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I've been here for a while. I just don't think I can win with these guys. Nothing personal. I just want to dip, And it's like, that's kind of what it was like for Magic way back then. And it's just kind of like, yo, we're teaming together and that's that. There's no other conversation to be had. It's like, what about us? Yeah, what about you? I don't care.
I think it's a powerful...
And that's just kind of what happened.
I think it's a powerful argument for the change in communication rules. Because I think part of it was, yeah, we were just way more concerned with winning back then. But the communication rules are a big part of that. Like, it's way easier to talk yourself into playing with teammates who maybe you don't see as being as skilled as you are. If you feel like, okay, I can at least walk them through certain spots. You know what I mean? I can guide them a little bit. But with no communication, it's just like they're just on their island. So if you don't think they can hack it, there's nothing to be done about it. So I think that part of the old communication rules really sucked and damaged a lot of relationships as a result.
Yeah, I think the communication rules aspect of things is a really good thing to bring up because, during our time, it feels good to talk about this. I feel old, but it feels good. Like during our time, like if like the money drafting that we talked about, it's just like, hey, I need a third. And it's like, well, I'm not playing with you. It's just like, because I can't help you. I can't say anything. And it's like, if I have to like stand there and like just watch you like, play and equip like an equipment and just get unforged and your creature dies. And it's just like, well, there goes my $50. What the hell? Like you didn't know unforged. I didn't think he had it. Of course he had it. We talked about this when we talked about what cards we passed. Like, did you just forget? And it's like, cool, you did. Great. Like just stuff like that where nowadays it's just kind of like, do you think they have unforged? And it's like, I don't know. We passed one. Okay, I guess I'll play around it. Okay, sure. Blah. You can have the conversation. Where back then it was just like you would just watch your opponent get like you'd watch your teammate get like blown out or humiliated, and it's just like, did you not think to play around that? And it's like, obviously I didn't. It's like, all right, cool, we lose now. So the communication rules do play a big role in things. Now, as for the story I have of you about this, Nick Miller went through the event coverage. Shout out to Nick Miller as always for the hard work that he puts in to make this podcast possible. Patrick, we have a quote from coverage.
All right, hit me.
From you.
Okay.
Quote, why would I like sealed deck? Sullivan asked. If this tournament were 11 rounds of Rochester draft, we would embarrass all but half a dozen teams in the room.
That's right.
Instead, it's like Wizards drafted for them.
That's absolutely correct. I stand by that. I stand by that statement. Maybe, is it a little aggressive? Sure. Is it true? Absolutely. And if any team, if you want to talk to your old flunkies or anyone who played in that pro tour, except for, maybe a half dozen teams or so, has a problem with that, you get your crew. I'll try to put mine together and we can settle it for some money. That's fine. I want to take a step back here for a second, though. When, not if, but when we bring money drafting back, we are going to have to come up with rules for communication.
I think there should be no communication allowed.
I was thinking about this the other day. Here's what I think is a reasonable rule. You can ask for teammates' help with mulligans. That's just an open thing. Talk about mulligans. And once per match, each player may have a lifeline where they get sort of current communication rules to walk through one play. I think that's a reasonable middle ground. Do you disagree? The silence suggests that you disagree. This is obviously just like hyper competitive 18 to 21, 22-year-old version of myself, which is no talking. If you can't hack it, don't play. Like no talking. You don't get to ask any questions. I don't care if the games take long, but like this is a serious environment with money on the line. And like if you can't hack it, you don't get to play. Like you don't get to ask questions. Like you have to play around, you have to play around mending hands. You have to play around 100 talent strike. Like you have to know the cards or you lose. Like I think that's how it should be. So I think
you don't get to ask your teammates.
My perspective is just a little nibble of it being a team thing could go a long way without being sort of antithetical to the perspective you're describing.
I don't know. I miss the hardcore sharking nature.
Yeah, but we gotta get a new generation in. They're not gonna go for that. We gotta allow a nibble of communication, just in a way that's not disruptive, that doesn't take forever, that doesn't mean that one player is playing all 3 matches. Like, we gotta settle all that, which is sort of why my mind went to the place it went to first. But I don't think the kids are gonna go for it unless we let them talk a little bit.
You're probably right. That's my stance, with me admitting that you are probably correct. But, to anyone who wants to just do I'm just going to reach out to the people here who want to do a hardcore, no talking, money draft or something like that. That's what I'm talking about there. Just, I think that you are correct insofar as your approach is a lot more, it's probably a lot more welcoming as opposed to my play on hard mode. If I lose and run into a trick, I deserve it. Sorry, team. Etc. I just like that more, but I understand what you're saying.
You got to negotiate, right? What's the thing that's the most important to us? It's the money on the table. That's the most important thing. That's the second most important thing. What's the most important thing to you?
For me, in a money draft or anything like that, the most important thing is the people on the other side of the table know that I'm better than them. It's the pride.
I think that's what
the money matters less to me. And it did then too. Obviously I needed the money back then, but it was more about I would play anyone in a money draft. I did not care. People who are definitely better than me, but people who after I would win or lose or play a good match, it's just hey, that kid's pretty good. That actually mattered to me more than I won $50 off of whoever the heck. It's just nah, I can play with you. I can beat you. I can hold my own in this environment against the best players because that's what I care about.
Well, that to me, the money is the proxy for that. That's the tax for being worse, is the money transferring hands. I'm really happy with that quote. Gotta say, I don't know if you checked it out or whatever, but I recently went on Humans of Magic, which I think is a pretty great Magic podcast. And I talked a lot about just, intellectual humility and learning and sort of questioning your process, trying to go back and question things every step of the way to improve. And I didn't start out there. You know what I'm saying? 20 years ago, 15 years ago, the quote you got from me from the sideboard was, "You losers are lucky they sent you a life raft here and gave you seal decks." Because if we just squared up, if it was just your crew against my crew, what the outcome would be. But instead, they got to give us this, sort of bullshit framework where you're on better footing than us if you open better. Oh yeah. I didn't get there overnight. This perspective I have now.
I love it. I absolutely love it. We got some GPs to go over. I'm going to go over the easy ones quickly. There are a lot of Grand Prix with the Betrayers of Kamigawa as the newest set.
If we can, real quick. I have a quick story for that Pro Tour.
By all means. Definitely cut me off.
One is seal deck building, which is I was black-white, rancid black-white deck. And ended up cutting 8.5 tails for my seal deck because it allowed me to bias the mana the right way, because my deck was very, very heavy on black mana requirements. It allowed me to be 10 swamp, 7 plains instead of 9-8 with super shaky mana. And also my deck had 2 copies of Devouring Greed, and it allowed me to play just another spirit in lieu of the 8.5 tails. So I don't know if this is right or wrong in retrospect, but it was an interesting thing that happened. Last was we were finishing up Eugene's deck, and he was considering of his sort of marginal playables, Immolari of the Open Fist. Do you remember this one?
2GG, 5/5 trample, ETB. They can put a legendary creature on the battlefield or just a creature on the battlefield?
Legendary, yeah,
because 101 is any creature. Yeah, 2GG, 5/5 legendary trample. They can put a legendary creature on the battlefield.
So we're talking about, do we play this or something else? And that card's super risky, and it's probably magnified in Team Sealed because the legendary creatures are more efficiently distributed through the pool. So everyone has more of them on average, and some of them are quite good. So do we play this card? High ceiling, really low floor. or just some C- to fill out the last playable. And I go, well, if we play Imawari,
Are you asking?
This is what we're discussing as we're building our decks amongst our team.
Okay, sure. I didn't know if you were asking me a question, but yes, this is a relevant discussion. So yes, continue.
And I go, well, I think we should play Imawari because if it's powerful, it ends up being good in these games, then it was meant to be. And if not, we would have just probably lost to something else eventually, right? It's like, that doesn't sound right to me, but I'll play it. So I'm playing my my first match. I'm getting absolutely just shit canned. Look over, and Eugene's got 3 tapped lands and a tapped mana elf on the battlefield, and an Imawari, and the opponent has 3 lands and a Kakusho out. I'm like, well, it wasn't meant to be. At least we found out sooner rather than later.
Let's get this over with fast.
One way or the other, someone's got to go.
Yeah.
Anywho, that's it for that Pro Tour. Not a lot of memories there.
No, me either. Your team finished 103rd. Mine finished 117th out of 119 teams. Just memories. Okay. Other events, very quickly. There's one big one worth noting, but bunch of GPs with Betrayers of Kamigawa's newest set. A lot of them were extended. I'm going to save the most relevant extended one for last. However, GP in Eindhoven extended February 25th to the 27th. 1,011 players in attendance. Sebastian Rue with Psychotog wins. Roger, this is a relevant player. Maatn, Mateen?
I don't know. It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, played Affinity, and then Camille Corneliuson played Cephalid Life. We're going to get to that deck in a little bit. Seattle extended GP, March 5th through the 6th, a couple days after my birthday. I was desperate to go to this GP, and I could not get the money to go, and my dad wouldn't float me any money to go because my grades were so bad. Good call, Dad. 390 players. Ernie Marciano, who was really good friends with Vishu Doshi, and he's a Northeastern player. I'll never forget that he won this GP with The Rock. Other players that made the top 8, a 16-year-old Max McCall, who works for Wizards of the Coast, with Goblins, Shuhei Nakamura with Cephalid Life, Ryan Samara with Allurin, and Tyoshi Fujita with Sneak Attack. GP Singapore extended March 19th through the 20th. 373 players. Winner, Itaru Ishida with Psychotog. Ishida, very, very, very good Magic player. GP Leipzig, limited, March 26th and the 27th. 897 players, excuse me. Rustam Barkrov, I'm definitely pronouncing that incorrectly. I apologize. Won the tournament. First Russian player to ever win a Grand Prix. So that's a cool note there. GP Lisbon, limited, April 23rd and the 24th. Attendance, 1,169 players. Winner, Marcio Carvalho, first of many. Also in that top 8, Anton Janssen, one of the greatest limited players of all time. And now I'm actually going to turn my attention to a GP that was limited May 14th and the 15th, 419 players. This was GP Matsuyama. It was won by Akira Asahara. We had Masashi Oso in the finals. Shuhei Nakamura, Tamaro Saito all made the top 8 of that tournament. And now the 2 tournaments that we're going to turn our attention to, unsurprisingly American-centric. Patrick, Grand Prix Detroit, limited GP, April 23rd and the 24th. 491 players. Winner, Jordan Berkowitz. Top 8, Richie Hohen, Michael Crum, Heroin Remy, Osip Levidovic, William Postlethwaite, Sam Gummersall, and you.
Mm-hmm. This was, at the time, erroneously called the best GP top 8 of all time.
Yes.
One person who shall remain nameless, but a established Pro Tour player at the time, went so far as to say the top 8 was the 8 best players in the room. Also not true.
I mean, it's a pretty good top 8. Don't get me wrong.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah. Fun note here, 491 players. I finished in 422nd place. 2 notes from this tournament, okay? My deck was horrible. And I mean horrible. Okay, I remember that very, very well. I remembered I was really pumped for the tournament. We drove up from Indy the night before. You know, I had some number of buys, me, Michael Day, rest of the guys from Indy. I opened my deck. My deck is extremely bad, and I'm extremely mad about it because I was playing so much of the format. To the point where I remember in my third batch after starting O2, I had a Ryusei that was in my sideboard, which is a splashable card, if assuming you have like a Kodama's Reach or anything else, right? But I think my deck was like black-white or something, right? Like I just didn't have the cards to make a green deck work and splash the Ryusei. But I was completely off the rails at this point. So sideboarding for game 2, I decided I'm going to go to like my green deck so I could just cast my Ryusei and maybe I can just win with the 5/5 flyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So turn 3, I have the Ryusei in my hand. I've drawn the Cultivate. I cultivate. I search up 2 lands, and I realize that I did not sideboard a mountain in to cast the Ryusei to find out the Cultivate, and I immediately concede and drop.
You know what's great about that story is I knew where it was going the whole time, and it was still hilarious when you said it.
Yeah. Cultivate, search again, I concede. Drop from the tournament. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's story 1 from that event. Story 2 is me and Michael Day are headed on our way home. And Gabe has instructed us that we need to take, it's an Argentinian player. I believe his name is Diego, and his last name starts with an O.
Ostrovich.
Thank you, Diego Ostrovich. Gabe has asked/instructed Michael Day to drive Diego, like Indy's on the way home, so we need to drop him off at Gabe's place because he's going to be there testing for something, okay, like a PT or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. So we leave Sunday night, drives like 5 or 6 hours, maybe less than, maybe I think like 5 hours, not that bad of a drive, right? And so I'm furious at how this weekend has gone. It's gone bad in every way imaginable, and I'm broke college kid, and everything's bad, right? So I remember just being in the front seat, and I'm the asshole who slept in the front seat.
Oh, God.
Dude, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
That's okay? So much worse than your "I won't team with you" story.
Yeah, dude, I was not good. I was not a nice human.
Oh,
I'm not proud
God.
I'm not proud of 18 to 22-year-old me. Okay, so I'm in the front seat. We're driving home, and it's like snowing and stuff. Even though it's it's like late April, it's snowing. Okay, so we're driving home, and I fall asleep, and I wake up 2 hours later. I'm just, where are we? Michael goes, not quite sure. Because this is before, like, maps on your phone.
Yep.
Right? And so I look up at the next sign, and it says, like, Grand Rapids, 20 miles. And I'm like, oh, no. What have you done? Because at that time, my brother was living in Grand Rapids, and I know cities and maps, and, like, Grand Rapids is not close to heading towards Indianapolis. It's more like you're heading towards Wisconsin and Minnesota. And he's like, I was just waiting for a sign to say, like, you know, Indy or something. And I'm like, you just didn't think to say anything or wake me up or anything like that? And so that means that we had to turn around, double back through Detroit, and then head home. So the drive actually ended up taking us 9 hours as opposed to 4.5 or 5 hours. So that's that GP. Last GP before we take our first break. GP Boston extended. February 4th through the 5th, 699 players, won by Masashi Uesu with Alurin. Top 8 includes Osip Lebedovich on Blue-White Snap Desire, Masahiko Morita on Green-White Life, Keith McLaughlin on Teen Titans, Ben Dempsey on Blue-White Temporary Solution. I don't know if you remember that deck, but it was a deck that had Parallax Wave and Parallax Tide alongside Stifle.
I do remember that deck.
Anthony, I don't know how to say his last name. Impellizzeri?
Mm-hmm.
He's an Italian kid. It's just true. It's just true. It's just true. He didn't have a great reputation if memory serves.
Oh, that is just a really funny, Italian kid, whatever.
Italian kid.
You sure?
White, black.
Are you sure you didn't grow up in New Jersey? That's a really New Jersey. Impala, whatever, Italian kid, one of us.
White, black, infinite life. For those of you who don't know those decks at the time, it had the nomads in core, and you would blink it off. You would target it. You would target Duro Spiritualist over and over and over again. It would get +0/+3 for every time it was targeted by something, and then so you'd redirect the damage over to that, except there were no damage, and the ability to activate the redirecting of the damage was 0. And then you sacrifice the creature to Worthy Cause or Starlight Sanctum, and you be an infinite life. And some decks just couldn't beat that. Daniel O'Mahony Shorts or Dan OMS with Blue Green Madness, and then Lucas Glavin with Cephalid Life. So Patrick, from what I've looked up here, you were not at that tournament. GP Boston.
Sounds right. I was at Detroit, though.
You were at Detroit. GP Boston in February, Detroit late April. Because this is when you're on the West Coast with Upper Deck.
Mm-hmm.
I got 192nd place with White Weenie. I won a Grand Prix trial. A lot of my friends from Ohio came to this tournament because we all liked playing extended. I won a Grand Prix trial at 3 a.m. And something that maybe newer school players don't know now is that the sleep-in special, not always a thing. So if you won a Grand Prix trial and got done at like 3 or 4 a.m. and you earned 3 buys, you still had to show up at like 8 a.m. or 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. for deck reg and handing your deck list. And then you had 3 hours to do whatever you wanted. But that wasn't enough time to like go back to the hotel room and sleep because you're scared you might sleep through the rounds. You don't know how quickly or how slowly the rounds are going to turn over. So you're just in a lurch.
That was my first Grand Prix, was winning a trial the night before and then just having to stay on site for 4 hours for the player reg meeting.
Yeah. I'm mentioning this GP because, one, Lucas Glavin broke the format. There was a deck called Cephalid Breakfast, which was Cephalid Illusionist alongside Shuko. You would equip the Cephalid Illusionist over and over and over again, I think it was, and then like you would mill your deck, and then you would Dragon's Breath back a Stutrid Ghoul and attack that way. But what Lucas Glavin did is he jammed the 2 decks together, which was his Cephalid Breakfast and the Infinite Life deck together. And he broke it. He had the best deck in the room, by far, not close, made the finals, and unfortunately for me, because you were not there, I don't remember exactly what happened. Wait, I think I do. Well, some people who are listening to this would probably be able to tell me. I'm thinking of like Adam Snook might be able to tell me exactly. But basically, LCG had him dead, had Masashi dead in the finals, except for he forgot to flashback Cabal Therapy, targeting like himself to make this Stutrid Ghoul large enough to kill Masashi via Dragon's Breath. And Masashi the next turn just played a learn and killed him. And that was a GP that Masashi won because, he's really good, but LCG blew it and had the best deck of the tournament, and then everyone just played that deck and extended for the rest of the season.
Can I give you a brief Grand Prix Detroit story before we go to break?
Yes, you can.
So my seal deck is absolutely cracked. It's just so not okay. Like Jitte and every good black and white common. It's just...
okay.
So I think I go X1 and then 3-0 the first draft, if memory serves, and then go loss in the second draft. And the last round, I can't remember what happened. I remember trying to bribe my opponent and the communication broke down or something. I won. I think I won clean. Maybe I didn't. It's hard to say. So at that point, I'm like confident that I've like came in like 10th or 11th place. Like can't top 8. But it was still a really great tournament. I can't remember if it was because the pro points were a thing or if it qualified me for the next pro tour. But even though I missed top 8, I was like very happy with the results of the tournament. So I'm going out I go to the hotel bar. I'm doing shots. It's like, great, going to fly out tomorrow afternoon at a reasonable time. And I'm just going to like party tonight, even though I came up a little bit short. So just at the bar, just getting trash with people. And they're like, in 8th place, Patrick Sullivan. It's like, I thought that there was no chance on breakers. So I'm like, holy shit. I'm like not okay. Like not okay to draft or whatever. Not okay to go back there. Worried about getting kicked out of the tournament site. But like, whatever. They've called me. So I go, do the draft, get mushed in the top 8, and then head back to the bar after that.
Finish on up what you were starting.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Exactly.
Love it. Those are the events and the facts of Betrayers of Kamigawa. We're going to take our first break an hour into this podcast. When we do come back, it is time to examine the mechanics of the set. See you soon. Taking a quick break from the podcast to let you know that preview season for Modern Horizons 2, by the time you're listening to this, it's already begun and probably then some. And if you're like me, you liked Modern Horizons 1 because you wanted PTQ with Hogak, which is, what are we doing with that card? Will Modern Horizons 2 have a card that good or cards as good as Hogak and Urza and Arkham's Astrolabe and the rest of the nonsense that was in that set? I don't know. I'm leaning no right now, but I can say this. I'm really happy about the return of Counterspell in Modern. Not as happy as Shaheen Sarani, but I'm happy nonetheless. They're bringing some fetch lands back. They got some crazy borders going on. Urza's Saga, the enchantment, not the set, is in the set as well. So what to expect from this set? I think the tagline for Modern Horizons 2 should be, expect the unexpected. Right? I'm a marketing genius. Look, okay, I'm done with the nonsense. You can head over to starcitygames.com/previews to check out all of the Modern Horizon 2 previews as they unfold from Wizards of the Coast and the rest of the content coordinators out there, like myself, who will be previewing a card over the course of the Modern Horizons 2 preview season. And if you find something you like at that website, again, starcitygames.com/previews, pre-order it. Pick it up. These cards are going to be good in Modern. I'd be shocked if there wasn't something completely busted like Hogak and Urza was at various points in their lifespan. One more time for you. StarCityGames.com/previews for Modern Horizons 2. My own tagline, expect the unexpected. And now, back to the pod. All right, folks, let's talk mechanics of Betrayers of Kamigawa, not Champions. I almost slipped up there. I'm going to go through the easy ones first, because there's some redos, obviously, here. We talked about Bushido. We talked about Soulshift. We talked about Arcane last week in the Champions of Kamigawa version of this. I don't think our opinions really change very much on that stuff, so I'm just going to kind of group all that together real quick. Bushido, you were fine with, but you didn't love, if memory serves?
It's innocuous enough that it doesn't really matter, but there are sort of the broad characteristics of the mechanic are not very good. It's super insular because it references itself, so it scales in a weird way in like larger formats. It's onboard trick/complexity. It discourages attacking and blocking in different ways. It's not great. It like I said, it's innocuous enough and low enough in power that it doesn't matter all that much, but I don't think it's a great mechanic in absolute terms.
There were only 9 cards with Bushido in this set. Most notably, I think I would say Isao Enlightened Ibushi was probably the best of the bunch. 2 and a green, 2/1 human samurai, legendary creature. Isao could not be countered. Big deal way back then. Bushido 2, then you could pay 2 mana to regenerate target samurai, which Isao was. But, Bushido, really good living ability, not much for constructed. Soulshift, you can say more of the same here. When this creature dies, you may return target spirit card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to your hand. There were 8 cards. Rare was Kodama of the Center Tree, which was worse than North and South Tree. Uncommon was Body of Jukai, Forked Branch, Garami, Kami of the Honored Dead, Pus Kami, and then the commons were Crawling Filth, Harbinger of Spring, and Moonlit Strider. Moonlit Strider might be the best of those cards. Your thoughts on Soulshift once again?
Same as before. I wish they explored more variation in the Soulshift number instead of N-1, which sets off these Soulshift chains that could be really laborious and sort of prevent interaction in a general sense. I think Soulshift is pretty cool. I would have just preferred to see a wider range of numbers explored rather than how tight it was throughout Champions Block.
And then we have Arcane, which is a subtype that doesn't do anything on its own, but it interacts with other cards referencing it. And of course, that also means that there was Splice onto Arcane as well, which you could copy a spell and piggyback off of an Arcane spell. Cards like Glacial Ray, for example, or some that others may be more familiar with, because there were 27 cards of Betrayers of Kamigawa, with Arcane. The rares, Goryo's Vengeance, and all of the shoals, Blazing Shoal, Disrupting Shoal, Nourishing Shoal, Shining Shoal, and Sickening Shoal. The uncommons were Overblaze, Aura Barbs, Heed the Mist, Stream of Consciousness, Tarashi's Verdict, 3 Tragedies, and Unchecked Growth. Commons worth noting, Hirobi's Whisper, 100 Talon Strike, Torrent of Stone, Crack the Earth, First Volley, Toils of Night and Day, Tarashi's Grasp. Reminder of your thoughts on Arcane.
It sucks ass. Spells matter means play with only these 12 spells sucks. The end.
Thank you for the reminder.
Okay.
And now we'll get to the actual new mechanic of the set that is worth talking about. Only 8 cards with Ninjutsu, but this was an ability that was maybe a little confusing at the jump, but people got used to pretty quickly and kind of welcomed ninjas to Magic, which was Ninjutsu. How it works is you return an unblocked attacker or attacking creature you control to hand. And when you do that, you pay the Ninjutsu cost and you put this card onto the battlefield from your hand, tapped and attacking. So basically, this creature, you'd go to attack step, attack, players would declare blocks. or they wouldn't. And then you go, okay, now that we're in the declare blocker step, after you've declared blockers before damage, ninjutsu, pay the cost. Ideally, it's Ink Eye, Sur, Navoni. It could be other things like Hagura the Stillwind as well. Those were the rares. Uncommons were Throat Slitter and Walker of Secret Ways. Commons were Mistblade Shinobi, Okiba Bang.
Give him the Mike Brain voice.
Okiba Bang Shinobi. Skull Snatcher, and the most famous of the ninja of the deep hours. It's Okiba Gang Shinobi.
Yeah,
for the record.
That's right.
Yeah. Bang! What do you think about ninjutsu now that I've sufficiently fucked that up?
I think ninjutsu rules. I'm a huge fan. You are correct. It's a little laborious to explain. It's not super intuitive on first blush, and that's a cost. What I love about it is I'm just a huge fan of mechanics that it's like the game's going to be about attacking and blocking, and there's all this context to the attacks that I make and my opponent makes that aren't face up. It's still, essentially tricks in hand, but it's just one more layer of, oh, what could my opponent have in hand that could justify this attack? And them having a ninja is very different than them having a pump spell and like what you decide to play around and how you sort of try to optimize for the range of outcomes is really, really interesting. So that part's very cool. I also like that it sort of sideways punishes people that don't play with creatures, because the ninjutsu stuff is, very easy to trigger if your opponent's just not blocking in general. So good against people who are not playing with creatures. So some of the ninjutsu designs are punitive towards creatures and not very good against creatureless people. But abstractly, the design space is good against people that are not playing with creatures. And also, what you want to play with ninjas is also interesting. Like, do you want to play with cheap evasive creatures that are, sort of hard to block and then you get to ninja? Do you want to play with creatures that are a little bit on the bigger side, so they're harder to block and a little bit more durable? Do you want to play with creatures with enters the battlefield triggers and try to like pick your thing back up and then recast it? There's a lot of interesting ways to engage with the puzzle of how to maximize it. So it is a little clunky in the way that it's written out, but gameplay and incentives, I think, are just excellent here.
I've always liked ninjutsu. It's near and dear to my heart because it helped me win my first individual PTQ as well. So that's a thing that's really cool to me. But I also just kind of like the flavor. I don't know if we're ever going to go back to Kamigawa block, and if we do, what that's going to look like. But I really do hope that ninjutsu gets another day in the sun, because I just think it's pretty rad, all things being honest. I think it plays pretty well. I think the flavor's really good as far as ninjas are concerned. I don't know. I've always just kind of liked it. And I thought, like, especially then when I was at my most competitive, I really like these cards too. So it all resonates with me back then and still now, almost 20 years later.
And I also at Grand Prix Detroit, Spike and me got an opponent where, like they're at 6, I'm attacking with 3 2/2s, and they can, block with their 2/2 and then crack back with their flyer and kill me if nothing happens. So what do you block? Do you trade, or do you chump block the first striker? And they just traded. And it's like, okay, first strike damage. Okay, first striker damage resolves. Ninja out, pick up my first striker, and that's lethal.
That's game. The first strike ninjutsu trick. I love that sound.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Still think about that one. That still makes the mouth water.
Well, we already know how you feel about Bushido, Soulshift, Soulshift, and Arcane. Flip card's not really worth mentioning in this set, but for those of you who are, old school fans, there was Faithful Squire, Kalo Jushi, Hired Muscle, Cunning Bandit, which was busted, and Badoka Pupil, which was also fairly good. And they flipped into their various cards. These aren't the flip cards that we see nowadays that transform, like we've seen in Innistrad and the Jace Vryn's Prodigy-esque Planeswalkers. But we talked about those a little bit the last episode. They're a little bit unwieldy, but a good first attempt at such a thing. So the only question I have for you before we take our next break is what do you give Ninjutsu as far as grades are concerned?
An A. I think the only thing kind of keeping it from an A+ for me is the sort of clunkiness of it. And there's spots where it plays a little non-intuitively, but like I've said, that I think the incentives and the both in like gameplay and in deck building, the flavor, it's great. I know that because they've selected the keyword that they've selected, it's not something that's like just easy to put into any set, but just for flavor reasons. But I think that if the flavor was a little bit less specific, that you would see ninjutsu as sort of a semi-evergreen keyword.
Easy A for me. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Like I said, loved it back then, still love it today. Hope it comes back in a future set. I honestly hope that we are able to revisit Kamigawa or a world like Kamigawa in the future that allows Ninjutsu to come back instead of maybe a supplemental set like a Modern Horizons 3 or whatever the heck other supplemental sets that they would jam it into. So it is my hope that we are able to visit a world like this in which Ninjutsu can take part. But with that, we're going to take a short break because when we do come back, we have to very quickly go over our cycles of betrayers. Taking a quick break from the podcast to talk to you very quickly about Star City Games Premium and why you should become a Star City Games Premium member. First, me, Cedric Phillips. I'm the online content coordinator for Star City Games. So if you like me and you want to see me keep my job, you should sign up. And if you don't like me, we're not going to talk about that. Okay, let's talk about what you actually get for signing up and paying the $7.99 per month to become a premium member, which is less than the cost of a couple of booster packs, by the way. It's actually, I think, if memory serves, like less than a collector booster. And they got these set boosters and all these different types of boosters now. So look, let's just say for less than a collector booster a month, you receive the following benefits. Are you ready? 5% discount on all Magic the Gathering sealed products, 10% discount on all Magic the Gathering singles, 15% discount on all supplies, which include card sleeves, deck boxes, binders, all that stuff for when real life play gears back up again. You also get some free entry to some SCG Tour online events if you're digging the SCG Tour online and want to play in some of those tournaments like our satellites and stuff like that. Couple of freebies out there. But let's not forget the big one, the exclusive access to Star City Games website content from many of Magic the Gathering's top players and fan favorite personalities like myself, like Patrick Sullivan, like Sheldon Menery, like Paulo Vitor Damaderosa, who is way too good at Magic the Gathering, Jerry Thompson, Autumn Burchett, Brian Gottlieb, Todd Anderson, Ari Lax. I'm going to forget somebody here and they're not going to like me for it. Brad Nelson, who's back writing for Star City on a weekly basis. Michael Majors, Dominic Harvey. The list goes on and on and on. That's how I saved myself there for people that I may have forgotten. Ryan Sachs, I didn't forget you. I swear. Ross Merriam, I didn't forget you either. Shaheen, hello. Stop playing bad control decks. Anyway, $7.99 a month. Less than the cost of a collector booster pack. Get awesome content, discounts 5, 10, 15% across the board. Get access to some SCG Tour online events for free as well. Head over to starcitygames.com/join premium for more information. With that, back to the pod. It is Cycles time here on the Betrayers of Kamigawa episode of the Resleevables. Some pretty interesting cycles here. There's not a ton, but there's some pretty interesting ones. I'm going to start things off with the shoals, Patrick, and I'm going to quiz you on the shoals. Are you ready?
I think so.
All right. Now, as I oftentimes have to tell you, now, let's just get this out of the way. I'm going in Wooburg order to help you.
Okay.
Shining Shoal.
White X. As an alternate cost, you can pitch a white card with converted mana cost X. That's shared throughout these, so just bake that into my answer.
Okay.
Redirect the next X damage that would be dealt to you or a creature you control to another target creature or player.
Correct.
Okay.
This card, busted.
Busted.
Busted. Disruptive Shoal.
Blue X pitch. Counter target spell with converted mana cost X.
2 for 2. Sickening Shoal.
Black X. Target creature gets -X until end of turn.
Busted. Blazing Shoal.
Red X. Target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn.
Correct. Nourishing Shoal.
Green X. Gain X life.
5 for 5, big guy. Proud of you.
Thank you.
Thoughts on this cycle of cards?
So there's a weird mixture of designs going on here. There is the you want to play with as expensive as possible, and the output potentially scales up as it gets higher and higher. Those two designs are Nourishing Shoal and Blazing Shoal. Not surprisingly, the most problematic of the two. They've been, the most reliable combo enablers, very quick kills out of hand, whatever. There's the second set, which is theoretically you want to go up as high as possible, but the nature of the design is such that there's realistically like no reason to go to infinity. There is a cap on the output, and that is the white shoal and the black shoal, where yes, you do want to play with something larger, but how big is the opposing creature that you're going to kill? How much damage can you possibly redirect in one shot? And so it does encourage expensive stuff, but it's not the same problematic space as the green and red ones, because it isn't really paying you off for going to infinity. And then there's the blue one, which is you want exactly the right number. So the incentive is a combination of play cheap and also play a range, so you can like force of will the widest range of stuff. That to me is kind of the most interesting of the design spaces and sort of the best deck building incentives. If you just want to sprinkle a bunch of mana costs throughout the deck, or there's like a specific thing you really want to force of will, and so you load up your deck with like 4 mana blue cards because you want to be able to force of will an early Gifts Ungiven or whatever the thing is. That design space I think is the best of the bunch. And then the white and black ones is sort of the next best execution. And then the red and green ones are really problematic. But it's cool that there's a range there. I think that if more of them were in the blue, white, black space, if you sort of just redesign the red and green ones, I think the cycle would be really good. A pretty good execution as far as free spells go. They're hard to get right. But it's also hard to come up with 5 of them that all speak to the color pie, are all reasonable X-Spell designs, and have none of them scale to infinity. It's very hard to pull off.
I find it humorous, because some of these shoals were so obvious for constructed play, right? Shining Shoal, Sickening Shoal, pretty clear-cut constructed players. Blazing Shoal, as we now know, is banned in Modern. I don't think, I can actually say this for sure. When I was younger, I wasn't ever thinking like, oh man, something's going to come along and this is going to be busted, because who knew Infect was ever going to come back, right? So it just kind of was what it was. Nourishing Shoal also kind of felt like it just kind of was what it was. And then Disruptive Shoal, there were some Force of Will comparisons there that never really lived up to the hype and still never have. So that quickly kind of died down. That's a little foreshadowing for a card that's going to win an award a little bit later today. But I think by and large, I think this cycle is pretty good, and I think it plays pretty well.
I love Disrupting Shoal as a design. It is my favorite Force of Will variant of all time, because it's actually asking you to engage with the question of what do you think you want to counter, and it informs the other deck building of your deck. So Force of Will just says play with blue cards. There's no blue card that you play along with Force of Will because you want to Force of Will a specific thing. Same thing is true of Force of Negation. So the I want to actually cut the ops for my deck for more copies of Telling Time, because I often want to Disrupting Shoal a 2-mana spell, and I'm willing to pay the delta in opt versus Telling Time. Is that is cool as hell. That is such an awesome, as far as pitch spells go, a really great thing to incentivize. But it's just, it's hard to do that 5 times. So it's just a limited array of designs you can make that sort of fit that bill. So an interesting way to think about the Shoal dilemma, sort of what I'm speaking to, is imagine there was a playable card in each color that just cost 20, and there was some alt cost or way of discounting it. It's how problematic are they with each of the Shoals? With the red and green ones, obviously a huge problem. With the black and white ones, not really a huge problem, because the difference between 20 and 6 is it's the same thing the vast majority of the time. And then the blue Shoal that's not good at all, barring something really weird. And so my what the Shoal design space kind of works in reverse order of that. Blue one being the best, white and black one being a level down, and then red and green being several levels down from that.
Makes sense. That's a good way to view it, I think. So bravo there. Let's talk about Genjus. So you obviously know the red Genju, but I'm going to quiz you. I'm going to see if you think you can do the Genju cycle.
Okay. I don't know. I'll try.
All right. Genju of the Fields.
3/5 lifelink.
2/5.
2/5. Okay.
So for those of you who don't know the Genju cycle, first of all, they all cost 1 mana, except for the gold one, which we might talk about. Genju the field, single white, enchant planes. Activates for 2 colorless. Until end of turn, enchanted planes becomes a 2/5 white spirit creature with whenever this creature deals damage, you gain that much life. It's still a land. Do you remember the Genju trick?
Yeah, you could keep activating it to get another, essentially another lifelink trigger off of it.
Yeah, another instance of lifelink, because it was a trigger back in the day, not a keyword that was static built in. So you could attack, activate it like 3 times, and then just gain 6 life as opposed to 2.
Yep.
Pretty nice. Genju of the Falls.
3/2 flyer.
Yes.
Okay.
Well done. Genju of the Fens.
I want to say this is like 2/2 regenerator.
Say it again.
2/2 regenerator.
2/2. Pay a black +1/+1 to end of turn.
Okay. Yep.
Little shade-esque. Genju of the Spires.
6/1. Ball lightning. Ball lightning.
This thing trample?
No, I think it was just a clean 6.
Yeah, just a clean 6 to the grill.
Gentleman 6.
Yeah. And then Genju of the Cedars.
This is just a pure shot in the dark. I have no recollection of this card whatsoever. But based on the other ones, I'm going to guess 4/4 trample.
4/4, no trample.
Okay. All right. I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll say a 3.5 out of 5. Not bad. What do you think of the Genju cycle? A little weird.
A little weird. It's cool though. I mean, I do like the incentives to play with like particular. So there's a question of how do you do cards that reward you for playing with one color. I think the Genjus are kind of a cool way of doing it, which is the reward here is that it's easy to keep the thing going. It's like recursive in a way that you can't really pull off. The types of monocolored rewards that I don't like are like Torbrand, because it's like triple red. So the conceit is that I'm already playing mono red or close to it. And then the payoff is all my red cards are better. Well, I wasn't playing with anything but red cards anyway. So it's just sort of a boring way to pay someone out. Like I've already bought into the conceit. I like just saying, here's this overrate thing that you get. And if you happen to be monocolor, there's like this sideways way that it gets a little bit better. Koth of the Hammer is kind of similar there because the emblem, it pays you out for mountains. And so does the activation. That one's probably a little too heavy handed on like you have to be basically all mountains for the thing to work. But I much more prefer here's an overrate thing that's just hard to cast or harder to enable than like calling out red cards matter on something with a bunch of red pips.
I'm going to go over the Genju, the gold one, which I'm pretty sure is an 8/12, but let me check. All right, Genju of the Realms. Cost domain. Yep. 2, enchanted land becomes a legendary 8/12 spirit with trample until end of turn. Why trample? Of all the abilities you can give this thing, why trample?
It's probably the intersection of keyword that plays the best with keyword that is not represented on any of the other Genjus.
All right, fine.
But I don't know. That's just the best guess. I have no knowledge.
Let's go to the patron cycle. Nah, I don't think you remember these, but I'll give you a shot. Patron of the Kitsune.
This is white 2, 5/5 vigilance. Patron Fox. I'm spinning it out. I know that isn't the whole thing, but that's all I got.
All right. I'm just going to do these for you because I don't think there's any world you're going to get these. Because you weren't even close. 4. Yeah. Yeah.
Not even close?
No, 4 dub.
Okay.
5/6. Fox offering. When a creature attacks, you may gain 1 life. So for those of you who don't know what offerings are, I'll read the reminder text here. You may play, actually, let me bring this window over to this monitor instead of trying to contort my neck. You may play this card anytime you could play in any, let's try again. You may play this card anytime you could play an instant by sacrificing a fox and paying the difference in mana cost between this and the sacrificed fox. Mana costs include color. So, yeah, that's a lot.
So
basically,
it's transmute artifact, but for foxes.
Basically, yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And Kamigawa had a decent number of foxes, so you could kind of play this thing for like 3 mana or something, right? So that's kind of cool. And then yeah, it's a 5/6. Whenever a creature attacks, you may gain 1 life. So that's Patron of the Kitsune. Patron of the oh man, where are my notes? Because there's one for each color, obviously. Patron of the Moon for our Soratami friends. This one. Where is really? There it is. 7 mana, 5 UU, 5/4. Moonfolk Offering, because of course it is. Flying, you pay 1 mana, put up to 2 land cards from your hand into play tapped. Okay. Most notable about these cards is you could play them as an instant by sacrifice by offering. So it could basically counteract a removal spell or flash in and block something because these things were pretty big, especially for that time in Magic. Patron of the Nezumi almost certainly is Rat Offering. Let me get this in front of me. Yeah, 5 BB, 6/6, Rat Offering. Whatever permanent is put into an opponent's graveyard, that player loses 1 life. Patron of the Aki, Goblin Offering. Let's see what this one does. 4 RR, 5/5. Whenever Patron of the Aki attacks, creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. I remember that card being totally fine. And then Patron of the Orochi. This is the snake one. Where'd you go? 6 GG, 7/7, Snake Offering. Untap all forest and all green creatures. Play this ability only once each turn. What do you think about the patron / offering cycle here, bud?
There's something a little bit cool here in terms of thematics and gameplay. It's like weirdly similar to Ninjutsu. That to me is the biggest strike about this mechanic in this set. Not that I think there's anything wrong with it in absolute terms, but like, oh, it kind of fizzles tricks and it mucks up combat, and also it's a way of like getting a creature sort of at a discount or onto the battlefield at a weird time. A lot of the characteristics of Ninjutsu in terms of gameplay are shared here, and that makes it kind of bizarre to me, but I don't mind it as a keyword on its own.
It's kind of a mess, but I think it's kind of cool. This one, to me, feels like something that you can put into a supplemental set, not a main set, and have it be cool. But maybe I'm wrong about that, because I don't really know what the goals of supplemental sets are versus main sets, stuff like that. But it feels like a supplemental set, like kind of like, hey, here's a cool commander thing, or just some sort of weird supplemental set that they're messing around with. I don't think it's horrible. I do think it's a little messy, though.
It is messy, and I think part of the problem with it is, and where that messiness manifests is, there's like okay, so if I sacrifice my thing and play this, and it dies, I just 2-for-1 myself. Very hard to get those mechanics over unless you make them all unkillable, and that's really boring in a different way. So the way to sort of hedge it is by saying, well, some amount of the time, this is actually good against Terminate because you get to sack the thing that was going to die anyway, and then you're up this efficiency on the exchange. And so I think that the messiness that you're describing, which I think is definitely there, emerges from the weird, like, how do we make this good against removal without making all the designs explicitly good against removal?
We got the Bakus. Now, I know you're not going to remember all of them, but if you don't remember this one, I'm going to be disappointed. Waxmane Baku.
That's a white and 2 colors for a 2/2 spirit. That anytime you play a spirit or arcane spell, you put a counter on it, and you can pay 1 and remove any number of counters from Waxmane Baku to tap that many creatures.
Busted.
Busted. Get it back with my Soul Shifter. Do it again.
This card was so good.
Yeah.
Let's see. And I'm gonna ask you about these other ones, but I don't think you're gonna get them. Quillmane Baku. Remember, I'm going in Wooburg order.
I cannot tell you any of the other ones. Maybe if you give me the names, right. But I doubt it.
I just did.
Yeah, I don't have that one. Implicit in the question is I don't know that one.
Okay, fine. 5 mana, 3/3. Sneasnid. Counter whenever you play Spirit or Arcane. That's for all of them. 1 and tap, unlike Waxwing Baku, where you didn't have to tap it at all. Actually, you were tapping it by attacking for 2 safely. Remove X counters. They're key counters, by the way, KI. Return target creature with converted mana cost X or less to its owner's hand. Skullmane Baku.
Does this have some weird discard ability?
So here's my guess without looking. 3BB 2-1. I'm almost positive 5 mana 2-1. Spirit or Arcane, put a counter on it. I'm gonna say, is it do you think it's discard or -X?
My guess is low confidence. Activate remove end counters. Your opponent reveals end cards from their hand, and you coercion one of them.
Okay, I'm gonna say 1 tap, remove counters. Target creature gets -X. Here we go. Yep, I'm right.
Okay.
And it is 5 mana 2-1. Okay. Blade Main Baku.
Is this like +1/+0? And it was like a 1/1 first striker or something?
So I'm pretty sure it's 1R, 1/1. Spirit or Arcane, put a counter on it. Pay 1, remove X counters, gets +2/+0.
Okay.
Yep, nailed it. Pedal Main Baku.
This was a mana elf, like 2 mana 1/1.
So I think it's 1G, 1/1. Spirit or Arcane, put a key counter on it. 1 tap, remove any number of key counters, get any mix of mana that you want.
I think that's right.
Okay, let me take a look. This is Quillmane. Starts with a Q. No, it's Pedalmane. Come on, Scryfall. Okay, you don't have to tap it. 1, remove X key counters, add X mana of any one color to your mana pool, so no mix. Okay. These are common creatures. All pretty, well, not all of them are good and limited, but, Salt Plane limited. Any thoughts on this common cycle?
I mean, it's good. I think Wax Main Baku is just like kind of too much for a common, but I do like
way too good.
I do like the sort of, here's a reward for doing the spirit thing. It's a different game piece than the other stuff. I think it's a good nuts and bolts cycle. Just Wax Main Baku is a little too intense.
3 cycles left. We got a lobotomy style cycle, Patrick.
Okay.
Scour.
That's destroyed enchantment and get all copies.
Quash.
Counter a sorcery.
Or
Instant?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Either one.
Yeah.
Eradicate.
Exile non-black creature.
Correct. Sowing Salt.
Destroy target non-basic land.
Assholes. Stupid card. Splinter.
Destroy target artifact.
Nailed it. What do we think about lobotomy style cards like this?
They're fun. They're good. They're good constructed backstops. They read a lot more powerful than they actually are. This cycle is a reprint, so this is not the first time around the block, but it's a good.
Yeah, this is was it Urza's Destiny?
That's right.
God, I'm so smart.
Got it. Yeah, so it's cool when it comes up. It's just designs like this can only help constructed. They do no harm because so much of what you're paying for is the lobotomy cranial extraction. You can get these sort of effects, just like destruction of artifacts and enchantments you can get for 1 mana. So anytime you're willing to pay for it, it's because you mean it. And usually you mean it because your opponent's up to no good with their 1 key card. So I'm a big fan of these.
1 mana common spirits. Here we go. Kami of False Hope.
Sacrifice to Fog.
Yes, there he is.
Ooh.
Teardrop Kami.
Tap or untap something.
Checking. Correct. Bile Urchin.
-1/-1.
Wrong.
Really?
Target player loses a life.
Oh, a little dinger.
Yeah, Frostling. Talk to me.
1 damage to target creature.
That's correct.
Played a lot of this card.
And Child of Thorns.
Don't
Don't get this wrong.
Child of Thorns. I don't have it. I don't know.
Okay, well, let's think about it. They're all 1 mana 1/1s, and they all sacrifice to do something in their color.
Okay.
+1/+1.
Okay. Sure.
Come on.
Sorry,
You're better
I
than
don't
that.
have it. I told you I didn't have it. There's
You're
no.
better than
If
that.
I tell you I don't have it and then you scold me, it doesn't make me suddenly have it. It's not how that works.
You're better than that.
Yeah, I'm a big dummy. I
That's-
still don't know it. It's not helpful.
That's the common cycle of 1 mana spirits, whatever. And then there were the glass kites. I am curious about your thoughts on these. So there was Shimmering Glass Kite, busted limited. 4 mana, 2/3 flyer. When Shimmering Glass Kite becomes the target of a spell or ability for the first time, nah, that's countered. Jetting Glass Kite, 4 UU, 4/4 flyer, same Glass Kite ability. And then Kira Great Glass Spinna, 3 mana, 1 UU, 2/2 flyer, Glass Kite ability. Is a Glass Kite ability good, fun, anything?
I would answer it differently for limited and constructed. I think in limited, this sucks. It's just worse than hexproof, because the frequency with which you can like cast 2 spells, get through the glass, and then kill the thing or do whatever is so rare. It's so rare you can do it, and then it's also so rare that it's better to spend 2 spells that way than doing anything else your opponent might be up to. So I don't like the keyword or the ability or whatever for limited at all. I think Kira is a nice constructed piece. Like, it does come up, and it kind of comes up for the right reasons. Like, it's just good against the all terminate person. The fact that it's a 2/2 flyer for 3, that body is really modest. So you're paying for the protection. You could just play something more efficient if you were only cared about dealing damage. So you're paying a cost for it. It's possible in constructed for your opponent to break it in novel ways. And it does sort of the right thing. Like, it's a good backstop for creature decks to have against the right kind of opponent. So I specifically like Kira as a constructed game piece, but for limited or sort of just normal play, I think this ability kind of sucks.
Well, folks, that's the cycles. They're done. We're about an hour and 40 minutes into this podcast. Going to try to wrap up the award show over the course of the next 20 minutes. But first, a short break. Taking a quick break from the pod to let you know that if you're looking to sell your Magic the Gathering cards, it's never been easier. And with a 30% store credit bonus and the fastest turnaround time in the industry, why would you go anywhere else but StarCityGames.com? Now, step 1, head over to StarCityGames.com/sell, SELL, and you can learn about the 4 ways to sell us your cards. Number 1, check out our buy list, see if some cards are on there that you're looking to sell. Choose yes, choose no, move forward. Number 2, ship your cards to us. We'll give you a quote and you can say yes or you can say no. Number 3, you can come to us in Roanoke, Virginia at the Star City Game Center, sit down with one of our buyers, they'll price out your stuff, and again, maybe yes, maybe no. And number 4, this is the big one. If you have over 500,000 cards or own a store and you just want to sell some of your bulk and get all that nonsense out of there, we can come to you. StarCityGames.com/sell, SELL, for more information. And with that, back to the pod. All right, everybody, it's award show time here on the Betrayers of Kamigawa edition of the Resleevables. If you've never heard of Umezawa's Jitte, you're about to a whole bunch. Oko Thief of Crowns Award for best card in the set. Here are the nominees: Umezawa's Jitte, Blazing Shoal, Nourishing Shoal, Hikori, Dust Drinker, Goryo's Vengeance, Ink Eyes, Serve Navoni. Patrick, crown him.
Umezawa's Jitte.
Yeah. So, for those of you who are not in the know, Umezawa's Jitte, 2 mana equipment, costs 2 to equip, legendary artifact. When equipped creature deals combat damage, not to a player, put 2 charge counters on Umezawa's Jitte. Remove a charge counter from Umezawa's Jitte, choose 1. Equipped creature gets equipped creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, or target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, or you gain 2 life. Stories about this card include, I don't think anyone realizing how good it was until they first played with it. And listener of the podcast and friend of mine, Indianapolis' own Nick Little, had it in his sideboard at the pre-release, sideboarded it in to see if it was good, and quickly realized the error of his ways. I remember him telling this story at the pre-release after sideboarding it in like the first round and being like, holy shit, this card's outrageous. Far and away the best card in this set. Any memorable Umezawa's Jitte stories?
I mean, sometimes I had it and it was dope, and sometimes my opponent had it and it sucked. Besides that, no, not really. What interesting stories could you have about this? I guess the interesting story that we had about this was playing Magic Online. We had the Jitte rule, which is if you were playing a draft, to make the game interesting, this was like a house rule we made when we were like watching games or whatever. You were only allowed to use the life gain ability.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so your opponent doesn't know you're playing by this rule, so they still have to play around everything. And it's still like basically impossible to beat, even if you just only gain life and threaten using any of the other abilities.
I do remember at PT London, which we'll get into in the next episode of the podcast, the team members of Pocket Rockets, we were drafting against Matt Wood. It was me and Ravitz against Matt Wood and I think Paul the Muscle Russell. And I don't know if people know this, but like there's basically no way to kill a Jitte either. There was Wearway, and I think there was Wearway and Hearth Kami, and I think that was it. Wearway was obviously not a main deckable card in most circumstances, and Hearth Kami was totally fine because it was 2-1 for 2, and then the text, was fine. And there was just a game where Ravitz killed all of Matt Wood's creatures, and he just had a Jitte sitting on the battlefield while he was getting like beaten down for 2, and just being like, if I ever draw a creature, you're dead. He's like, I know. And he just never drew one, and he just lost it. He just could not handle how unfortunate he was, and Ravitz and I were just kind of egging him on, just putting him over the edge. But past that, there's not a lot of great Jitte stories. There's a lot of in block constructed, play a Jitte to kill your Jitte. There's that.
Yeah.
That's really about it, right?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay. This card's going to win a lot of awards, folks. It's the best card in this set by so much.
It's so bad. This design's so bad. So bad.
It's not good. It's not good. Carnival of Souls Award for worst card in the set. Here we go. We have Kitsune Palliator. Okay, I don't know what this is. Let's take a look here, Nick Miller. 2 and a white 0/2. Fox Cleric. Prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to each creature and each player this turn. That's not very good. Takino's Cavalry. Oh yeah, I remember this banger. 4 mana, 3 and a dub, 1/1, Human Samurai Archer, Bushido 1. Now it's Tough Guy, 2/2. Tap, the Cavalry deals 1 damage to target attacking or blocking spirit. Heinous. And then Manichi, the Fever Dream. Actually, Nick Miller, this one a little bit better than Nick may have known. This one is 3 mana, 1/2 spirit, legendary. 1 in a red, switch each creature's power and toughness until end of turn. Is actually pretty good and limited.
Yeah, with damage on the stack and your opponent just not being very good, this was often just kill all attackers.
It's Plague Win. It's Plague Win a lot. Yeah. So a little better than it first appears there, Nick. That's okay, though. They also had Goblin Cohort, red, 2/2, Goblin Warrior. Can't attack unless you've played a creature spell this turn. That card's horrible. I'd say those are the nominees here. Anything stand out to you as worst card in the set there, bud?
4 mana, 1/1 flyer that doesn't do anything is pretty bad.
Yeah, very, very extreme. Bushido, not flying.
Like the Cohort at least is good at blocking, and it does it does do its thing some amount of the time. So also it's like 1 mana as a creature type that matters. Like that can't be the card.
Okay, I do think it is the Cavalry. The Cavalry is extremely bad.
Yeah,
4 mana, 1/1. Oh, Bushido 1. That's nice. You couldn't give Bushido 2. Couldn't be a 3/3 when it blocks or attacks or gets blocked. Come on. Also, who's blocking this thing when it attacks?
Yeah, exactly. Also, how often does it attack in the first place? To the extent that it has value, it's like the making it hard for your opponent to attack thing.
We'll go to the Doomblade Award for best role player in the set. A lot of options. Here we go. Shining Shoal, Tallow Wisp, Disrupting Shoal, Kira, Great Glass Spinner, Ninja the Deep Hours, Threads of Disloyalty, Flames of the Blood Hand, Frostling, Genji of the Spires, Sowing Salt, and Tendo Icebridge.
Oh, that's a lot of good ones.
That's right.
I guess Threads feels very much like a role player to me. Like you don't play a bunch of copies. The ceiling is super high. It's for answering specific problems. I've also been playing with it a lot lately, so I'll go with Threads.
I hate you because Threads was going to be my choice, with Tendo Icebridge being a very close second.
Yeah, Tendo Icebridge was a really nice role player for a while. With Aether Hub, it doesn't have much of a home anymore, but it had its time in the sun for sure.
We got the Oboro Palace in the Clouds Award for Fun of One of in the set. Nominees are Tendo Icebridge, Kira, Great Glass Spinner, and of course Umezawa Jitte alongside Stoneforge Mystic.
I can't give it to Jitte because it was so ubiquitous in Standard. I think Kira is a better answer. Like you just play one in your sideboard or your main deck because it's not good against everyone. And it has, it's legendary, so you don't want to draw a bunch of them, but it has matchups where it's a star.
I'm going to give it to Tendo Icebridge because now it is like a one of that's used playing like Amulet Titan decks and decks of that ilk. So I'm going to give it to Tendo. It has not been fully replaced by Ether Hub.
Sure. Yeah, people still rock it a little bit.
Earl the Mistalker Award for that card's from this set, ? Kira Great Glass Spinner, Threats of Disloyalty are my nominees.
I would give it to Threads. Like, what the hell is it doing here?
Yeah, I don't know. That's my winner. That's why I didn't give Threads the last award for a Doomblade award because what is it doing in this ninja like Japanese, like all of this culture? It's just like here's a control magic for 3 mana.
Like Kira is a legendary creature, and flying creatures are good with ninjas, and the mechanic on Kira is shared on a couple designs. Like it's part of the architecture a little bit. Threads is just off on an island.
This is a tough one to figure out. Mystic Confluence Award for best cube card in the set.
So is it Umezawa's Jitte?
It is Umezawa's Jitte.
Okay.
There is one nominee.
Great. Okay, cool. What's the next category?
Char Rumbler Award for the weirdest card in the set. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to get a little fun. Mirror Gallery, 5 mana. The legend rule doesn't apply. And for some reason on the card, legend rule is in quotes.
That's great. Well, I guess there's an understanding that the legend rule could change.
Okay,
there's like an awareness that it could mean something else in the future.
Okay, all right. That's I can get down with that. Yakora the Prisoner, 2BB, 5/5 Demon Spirit, legendary creature. When Yakora the Prisoner leaves play, sacrifice all non-ogre creatures you control.
Well, there's a little bit of an ogre theme in the set too, right? There's like the Tomb of Arami.
Yeah, and there's ogres in the first set. I mean, there's ogres in this set too. Takanuma Bleeder, 3 mana, 3/3 ogre shaman. When it attacks or blocks, you lose a life if you don't control a demon. So there's ogres.
Okay.
We got Goblin Cohort. Already mentioned that. 1 mana, 2/2. There's God's Eye, Gate to the Rikai. This one is a land, legendary. Tap, add colorless. When God's Eye, Gate to the Rikai, is put into a graveyard from play, put a 1/1 colorless spirit creature on the battlefield token. Orb of Dreams. This is 3 mana artifact. Permanents come into play tapped. And then Shuriken. When this card's just a total mess. 1 mana artifact equipment. Equip cost 2. Equip creature has tap, unattached Shuriken, deals 2 damage to target creature. That player's controller gains control of Shuriken unless it was unattached from a ninja. Now, do you remember the Shuriken trick?
Let me see if I can remember it, because I remember there was a trick with this thing. No, I can't recall. I know there was something, but I can't recall.
So, let's say you have a Shuriken equipped to a creature.
Mm-hmm.
You would then pay 2 to move it to a different creature you control, and while you hold priority, you throw the Shuriken, and the Shuriken resolves, and then it would equip, and then you would resolve the equipping onto the other creature.
Right. Yep.
So you would keep the Shuriken, basically.
Mm-hmm.
There's like kind of a weird thing that you could do around it. So yeah, there's a Shuriken trick there. For me, the weirdest card in this set is Shuriken.
I think it is Shuriken. I think absent that trick, I would probably go with something else, because it's very obviously like a top down, like they're trying to capture a certain flavor there. But the fact that it's basically bugged because of the rules means that it doesn't even do that.
I got the Questing Beast Award here for novel on a card in the set. Suzuko, Caller of Autumn. This card is green. I'm almost positive it's the snake thing, isn't it? Yeah, okay, here we go. 1 GG, 2/3. At the beginning of each player, legendary creature, Snake Shaman. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player adds GGG to his or her mana pool. That mana doesn't cause mana burn. And thank God for that. Until end of turn, this mana doesn't empty from that player's mana pool as phases end. I've got the Mark of Sakiko. I don't even know what color that card is. What color would that be? Black? I gotta Google this. I don't know what card this is. Mark of Sakiko Magic. It's green. This stink train. Okay. This one's got a lot of text. 1 and a G, enchant creature. Enchant creature has whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, add that much green to your mana pool. The mana doesn't cause mana burn until end of turn. This mana doesn't empty from your mana pool at phase's end. Sway of the Stars. This is a blue card. I remember because I tried to build so many decks around this and it was never good. 8 UU, sorcery. Each player shuffles his or her hand, graveyard, and permanents he or she owns into his or her library, then draws 7 cards. Each player's life total becomes 7. And then Twist Allegiance, red card. Chaos. Here we go. 6 and a red, so 7 total. Sorcery. You and target opponent each gain control of all creatures the other controls until end of turn. Untap those creatures gain haste until end of turn. Quest and Beast Award. Give me one.
I'm going to go with the last one because it is long and often just results in nothing happening.
Give me those creatures. All right,
All right, go.
Yeah.
All right, it's your turn. Yeah.
All right, go ahead. I agree with you. Twist Allegiance is very bad and long.
Yeah.
Blank award for best card name in the set. A lot of options here, given the flavor of the set. Nominees, include 3 Tragedies, First Volley, Hero's Demise, Reduced to Dreams, Sway of the Stars, Dream of Consciousness, That Which Was Taken.
There's a lot of there are a lot of great options here. I'm trying to think if it's something wasn't even named. I think Sway of the Stars is so good.
I like Crawling Filth.
Yeah.
It's a good name. Stream of Consciousness is a good name. None of the Genjus. Those all suck.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking a quick look through things. There are a lot of good card names in this set. I mean, this set is extremely flavorful. I like Final Judgment too. 6 mana, exile all creatures from the game. Just get Final Judgment, get them all out. I'm gonna give it to That Which Was Taken. There.
Cool.
I got Pack Rat Award.
Allow me. It's Umezawa's Jitte again.
Best limited card of this set. Okay, I want to play this game really quick because let's assume that Umezawa Jitte did not exist. Okay, there's some bangers in this set limited wise. I'm curious what your experience was. Final Judgment, 4 dub. As I mentioned, sorcery, remove all creatures from the game. Opal Eye, Kanda's Yojimbo. Do you remember this card?
Vaguely.
1 white, 1/4, legendary creature, Fox Samurai, Bushido 1, Defender. Tap. The next time a source of your choice would deal damage this turn, their damage is dealt to Opal Eye instead. 1 and a white to activate, prevent the next one damage that would be dealt to Opal Eye.
I already know what my answer is to this question.
What's that?
I know my answer to this question.
Non-Jitte?
Yeah.
Okay, I got 3 other nominees. Then you can tell me. I got Shining Shoal.
Yep.
That card's busted. Ink Eyes, Serve Navoni.
Yep.
I think enough people know that card. I'm not going to go over it. And then Famiko the Low Blood.
Yep.
Which was 2 RR, 3/2, legendary creature, human samurai. Famiko the Low Blood has Bushido X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Creatures your opponents control attack each turn if able. So basically the Abyss.
Yeah, it's like targeted.
Yeah.
It's a legacy weapon or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, come on in. The water's warm. What's your answer?
Ink Eyes.
Ink Eyes?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that card was insane.
I think the red legend is the only thing that's like really close, and it just died a lot, or like traded with a combat trick. Ink Eyes, if I ever hit, it was like just game over. It was just like, get your thing back, and now you have to find a way to stop my 5/4 from it happening again the next turn. It's just like impossible to beat. Just
John Avon, go ahead.
You just cast it. Like you didn't even have
it was just 6 mana 5/4.
Yeah, you just didn't even need a ninja for it to be good.
Yeah. John Avon Award for best land artwork in the set. There's 2 options: God's Eye, Gate to the Rikai, and Tendo Ice Bridge. I'm giving it to the Ice Bridge.
Me too. Love that art.
Last 2, Aurelius Fury Award for most overhyped card during previous season. My vote is for Disrupting Shoal because people thought it was going to be the next Force of Will, and it very much was not.
It's a really good choice. I'm straining here to think if there was anything else in previous season that had that kind of heat and then just wasn't good.
This is an area where I actually went through the whole file, and there aren't like a lot of great constructed playables here. Like as far as like big time rares or things that people were just like, that card's going to be insane. And it wasn't. So that's at least my answer.
Yeah, I'll go with it. I think that's right.
And then Tara McGoy Award for most underhyped card during previous season. I think the only answer can be
Umezawa's Jitte once again.
Yeah. Because as far as I remember, during previous season, there wasn't a lot of talk around this card. And then all of a sudden it was, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And you have to build all your decks around beating this card because you can't win creature combat anymore when someone has one.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, folks, we're going to close her down a little, maybe a little under 2 hours, close to 2 hours at least, here with Betrayers of Kamigawa. Patrick, what card won the set?
Umezawa's Jitte.
Yep.
Which kind of sucks, but that is the answer, I think.
I think it's far and away the answer. As flavorful as some of the aspects of this set were, and I like a lot of this set, Umezawa's Jitte's shadow over this set looms so large that you can't think about Betrayers of Kamigawa without thinking of it because it was just way overpowered.
Exactly.
Question for you before we get to the grade of the set.
Mm-hmm.
Was Jitte more powerful in this constructed format, during this time, as far as its shadow and its overbearingness? Was it more or less powerful than Oko and what it did to constructed?
I think in terms of it's an interesting question. I think that Jitte is sort of in some respects more influential because you can actually play around it somewhat. If your deck's all removal and you don't play with creatures, Jitte's not that powerful. Let's imagine you're not playing with creatures, you're playing some control deck. So you don't care about your opponent gaining life. The pump matters, but it's a pretty long runway before that you actually start getting your money back on that. And the minus ability it doesn't do anything either. So you could actually build your deck to mitigate it. And so people did that. Oko is so powerful in just all circumstances, kind of regardless of what's going on, that there's no way to build your deck to beat Oko. So people just played with Oko and tried to win the Oko battles as much as possible. So Jitte, I think, was a more influential card, but because you could actually mitigate it to some extent, and that's just not true of Oko. Oko is the more powerful card.
Unquestionably. Also answers Jitte.
Along with all other permanents.
That's correct. Lastly, what grade do you give the set and why?
I would give this a B-. There's a lot of I think there's a lot of just fun stuff going on in the set. I think Ninjutsu is great. I think a lot of the individual cycles are great. Largely the power level of the set is in good places to the extent that it's adding on to Soulshift and Arcane. I think it's in good spots, just spots, or at least not harmful spots. It's just Jitte is such a catastrophic miss that it does knock the set down, I think, up a full letter grade, at least, in my opinion. If you got rid of Jitte, though, I think there's a lot to like here.
I'm going to give it a solid B. A lot of fond memories, obviously. A lot of flavor that I really enjoyed. Thought the gameplay was pretty good in constructed and in limited during this time. That could be the 19-year-old Sharky version of me. But yeah, I just really liked it, and Jitte was a huge issue. Even among all that stuff. If you're going to be banned from Magic, one of the times to be banned is when you can't play with Umezawa's Jitte. So, hey, maybe it was a blessing in disguise. Who knows? But yeah, I give it a B. There's a lot of things I liked about this set. Now, as is oftentimes the case when we get to the third set next week, Saviors of Kamigawa, I don't have resounding fond memories of that set and its addition to Kamigawa block, but so it goes. We'll talk about that next week. And I'm very excited to do so. But for now, I'm happy to give this set a B and move on with my life. Any final words before we call it?
It sets the stage for one of the worst sets of all time, which I'm very excited to talk about next week.
Well, we will be talking about... I didn't know you thought it was one of the worst sets of all time. That's exciting.
There's multiple do I play my third land or not mechanics, so it's pretty rough.
Well, let's just say that's something to look forward to. And last time we teased you guys with what we already knew was going to win the Oko Thief of Crowns Award for best card in the set with Betrayers of with Umezawa's Jitte. I have no idea what's going to win it in Saviors. So look forward to that and a whole bunch more next week. Well, that does it for umezawasjitte.com.net.edu. Hope you learned a lesson about that card because, oh boy, if you weren't playing then, and I imagine a lot of you weren't who listen to the podcast because this set is almost 20 years old. Yeah, that was a whole thing, folks. It was a whole thing. And it's still good now in vintage cubes and plenty of, legacy, plenty of formats. That card is still good. So imagine how good it was in its standard format where artifact removal was, not that ubiquitous. Obviously, these sets mirrored and crossed over with Kamigawa block a little bit, but by and large, once mirrored and rotated, Jitte was the thing to do, and not to mention block constructed as well. So, incredibly powerful card that naturally won a lot of awards and was a format definer for quite a long time, thanks to Betrayers of Kamigawa. We come back next week. We'll do Savers of Kamigawa, which I didn't know Patrick's despised this set so much, so I find that to be incredibly interesting. Should be fun talking about some of the mechanics in that set, to be sure. And though it might seem unintentional, we did leave Pro Tour Philadelphia off because it happened to kind of the back end of this set, and that's actually how we're going to kick off the next episode, is by going over Gadiel Cypher's Pro Tour win. That's the tournament where I met Luis Scott Vargas, Paul Cheon, bevy of other folks have quite a few tales from that event as well, and I'm sure Patrick does too. So should be fun there to kick off the episode by talking about that Pro Tour and then what is apparently not a great set. So that should be a lot of fun. If you enjoyed what you heard, of course, you can subscribe to this podcast over on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever else you do listen to your podcasts. Like, rate, review, stars, all that jazz. We do appreciate all the positive feedback we're getting on the podcast. It's been a lot of fun. Looks like some people or more people are finding out about it right now and are enjoying it. So that makes us happy. And if you guys are liking what we're putting out, we're going to continue to do it, and we're enjoying doing it anyway. So there is that. You can also listen, watch in quotes on YouTube if you want to. Just some people like to listen to things on YouTube with it on the background. So, that's why it's there. No, we don't do any editing to it or anything like that. That's cool with pictures or stuff coming up like that. It's just a medium for people to listen to it who listen to their audio on YouTube, which is a non-zero number of people, especially if you see the views on those videos. So there you go. With that, everybody, Savers of Kamigawa is here next week on the Resleevables. We will see you then. Be well and go cast an Umezawa's Jitte. It's really fun.